Layer up, my friends. It is brutally cold out there this morning. An extreme cold warning in effect until noon. After starting the day with wind chills between 15 and 25 degrees below zero. My forecast high today is only 15. Top wind chills around 3 this afternoon, and that's with the sunshine. Not as cold tonight. Still frigid, though. Down to 10 for the low early Tuesday morning. Mostly sunny and warmer tomorrow afternoon, but minimal melting with a high at 29. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
Let's get the conversation started, St. Louis. This is Mike Ferguson in the morning on NewsTalkSTL.
All right, glad you got through that winter storm over the weekend. Things are going to be, a little messy for just a little bit, but we should be back to normal before too long here. Was it as bad as you thought it was going to be? Let me know. I'm kind of watching the comments on that. Anyway, happy Monday to you. I'm Mike. A lot of ground to cover today. Congressman Eric Burlison going to give us our weekly report from Washington, D.C. We're going to talk to him at 7:35, and we're also going to get the update on what's happening at the Missouri Capitol. State Senator David Gregory going to be with us just a little after 8 o'clock. Okay, the FCC, under the Trump administration, now technically they're independent, but we know where the influence is. They're putting the broadcast networks, especially the TV networks, on notice. Shows like The View, shows like Jimmy Kimmel, shows like that, they are overtly hostile to the president. They're overtly hostile to Republicans kind of as a result there. And they've been warned, you better bring back the concept of equal time or else. Well, what does that mean and how could that change things? David Bozell is the president of the Media Research Center, and he had a chat with us on Friday about that, not just about why this is happening, but could there be any unintended consequences? And here's what David had to say.
For many years, even going back to when I was in college, we were taught, here's actually the regulation. But, there's been a decision to just not enforce it, and it's just kind of been dormant. So what is it that the FCC is now saying to the networks, and who's being affected by this?
Yeah, Mike, I appreciate the opportunity. So the way I compare this to a professional sports league in the off season, telling all of its teams that there's going to be points of emphasis on different types of rules that they've sort of let go lax in the previous few years. This, at the risk of boring all of St. Louis, this all stems back to Section 315 of the Communications Act of 1934, which said that if you're going to get a broadcast license, if you're going to essentially be given this taxpayer subsidy, ABC, NBC, and CBS, having been the recipients of this, if you're going to get this subsidy, you have to play by what's called equal time rules, right? Especially in election years. If you're going to have a Democrat on who's running for election, you got to have a Republican on that's running for election. And this kind of reared its ugly head most prominently with Saturday Night Live. They had Kamala Harris on, and then they refused to invite Donald Trump on. And that was a big no-no. Now, they went back on that decision after being threatened by the FCC, and Trump got his equal time. But last year, the View, the Kimmels of the world, all these guys, 99% of their late-night guests were all left-wingers. Mm-hmm. And the View just recently had 128 liberal guests compared to just two conservatives. The two were, basically Marjorie Taylor Greene, who was on there to dog President Trump, and Liz Cheney, who was also on there to dog President Trump. So the FCC is coming down heavy and saying, look, if you want to continue to receive this subsidy, you have got to adhere to equal time rules. It's the rule that's on the books. There's no exemptions, no exceptions. Now, you can make a newsmaker exception. So, in other words, Mike, if you were, let's say you were running for Congress and you've discovered a new way of making sourdough bread and you've made some news in that to that effect, you could get on without having your opponent get on. But beyond that, there's no exceptions. And so it'll be interesting to see what Kimmel and The View do from here on out, especially in the midterm year.
Yeah, now, so I know Susie's got a question here. I want to follow up on one thing. You mentioned the subsidies a little bit for the national networks. Is there a Cliff Notes version of what that actually means? Because there might be some people surprised to hear that there's subsidies for these giant media conglomerates.
Yeah, so when the broadband network was essentially created, the broadcast network, as it were, now everything is in internet parlance, so it's confusing. But ABC, CBS, and NBC exist on, technologically speaking, kind of an archaic broadcast network. And I really don't pay into that. It's a gift provided to them by the American people. The deal is they're supposed to provide equal time for both political parties. That's one of them. That's one of just the many parts of the deal, and they just routinely fail to do so, time after time after time. So it's one thing to be biased in your news coverage. It's quite another for your entertainment and sort of cultural programming to just all be left wing in one political ideology, hour after hour after hour.
Good morning, David. This is Susie Moore.
Hey, Susie.
Hi. I think a lot of people kind of got a crash course in FCC regulations and applicability after the Jimmy Kimmel incident, after he was taken off the air momentarily following Charlie Kirk's assassination and his comments on that. And so this is something that kind of perked people up and got them looking at this. But when we're talking about this in terms of equal access, we talk about it for Democrats and Republicans, but does it apply to other political parties as well?
The two majors are most highlighted, but you at some point there's not a hard and fast rule. So in other words, let's think of in other words, would you have to have a libertarian on?
Mm-hmm.
I think the invitation needs to be put out there. And look, I'm old enough to remember the days of Ralph Nader.
Sure.
The reason why Ralph Nader goes on national television, having only commanded 2-3% of the vote, is because of equal time rules. Yes, to a big extent it would. Now, are you going to? Does that apply to? Remember that guy who was running for New York City mayor and saying the rent was too damn high?
Oh yeah.
Is it going to apply all the way downstream? I don't think so.
Well, and that leads to the question I was going to have. We're visiting with David Bozell from our friends at the Media Research Center. Is this just something that is kind of given that warning out to the national networks itself? Or does anybody who's a broadcaster like local television, local radio, and of course now this deals with broadcasters over the air. This isn't necessarily just for, the cable news, but how far does this, hey, heads up, we're going to be watching for this. How far does that extend?
Yeah, so the affiliates have a role here. And this played out during the Kimmel and Charlie Kirk situation. The affiliates own a lot of the local markets, and it wasn't Red State America ticked off so much as at Kimmel as much as it was Sinclair Broadcasting that owns a number of stations, ABC stations, in a number of different markets, including Washington D.C. and Chicago, Illinois. And so the local affiliates have a role to play, particularly, and it's all intertwined in the FCC rulemaking and regulations. And so they know that they're kind of on the hook. So, the decision to shut Kimmel down for whatever that was, 48 hours or so, nice little vacation for telling a bold-faced lie. But the decision to shut down wasn't made by FCC Commissioner Brendan Carr. It was made by the affiliates, which are essentially Kimmel's boss. There's this old adage, you got to keep the affiliates happy. And the story of how Jay Leno got the Tonight Show over David Letterman is probably most famous. When he convinced the affiliates that he could play it down the middle better than Dave Letterman could. And in order to protect the license that the affiliates owned, they needed to hire, NBC decided to hire Leno instead of Letterman. So all the affiliates, the local markets, those are all intertwined for sure.
So is this going to result in, maybe it should result in taking a look at the statutes that pertain to this? Are they in need of modernization, given that they were enacted almost a century ago and we're dealing with totally different mediums of communication now?
Yeah, Susie, it's one of those deals where, like the federal government is probably slower than the Vatican in a lot of these issues. And particularly, how do you respond to the new tech and new technologies? I love it when liberals will say, well, we don't, why doesn't Fox have to adhere to this? Well, Fox is a cable company. All right, they're not getting this taxpayer subsidy known as the broadcast license. So, the rules are off the table for them. Same thing with CNN. Same thing with MSNBC. So does the FCC need to modernize things? Sure, but with anything in Washington and the federal government Leviathan, yeah, that's kind of like moving boulders up the mountain.
Okay, we're visiting with David Bozell from Media Research Center. Just got a couple minutes left here, David. Okay, so let's talk about, I'm always looking for what could the unintended consequences be. Obviously, when you look at the Kimmels and the View and all those, what's the argument against saying, let the market decide? The market spoke up at one point, because at some point, do we risk networks and shows, entertainment, commentary, risk being in a position to where they have to worry about getting their jokes or their opinions vetted or censored by the government? And obviously, there's a lot of things that could go wrong with that.
Look, this wasn't really a problem for about good 80 years of this. It's only sort of manifested itself to this kind of a degree in the Trump era, where a lot of these shows, The View and Kimmel and Colbert especially, just cannot contain themselves with regards to the Trump derangement syndrome. So it's unintended consequences. Look, if they went back to sort of the way it was, I think they'd be okay. They live to fight another day. If they don't want to enjoy the subsidy that taxpayers provide, they're more than welcome to just go live out their days on YouTube. They really are. Well, if it's such a burden to have a Republican counterpart on your guest list, if it's that much of a burden for you, go live out your days on YouTube. I got no problem with that whatsoever. But if you're going to use public broadcasting airwaves, the deal that is on the books is that you've got to provide equal time to both parties. And if you don't like that deal, you can either go to YouTube, like I suggested, or work like the Dickens to change the law. If you feel that strongly about it. But the law is on the books, and the president and Brendan Carr have taken oaths to preserve and protect the law.
Okay, and then just the last little add-on to that, David, and that is, the equal time means that they're on there, they're featured, interview, that sort of thing. It doesn't dictate what they have to, ask them. It doesn't dictate how they have to interview them. So if they give a glowing interview to the Democrat, technically, to be within the rules, they could have the Republican on and just talk about how bad they smell in the studio if they wanted to.
And in defense of them, it really doesn't apply to if the guest even comes on. Yeah. The invitation needs to be extended in equal form. So look, if J.D. Vance or whoever, whichever Republican congressman in Missouri, if they just decline it, look, the broadcast network, that show, they would be in compliance. So, no, it does not apply to the style of the interview, the tenor, the tone, the type of questions. Now, do Republicans and conservatives get gnarly questions from these guys as compared to Democrats? Absolutely. But, you go into the lion's den if you want to go win some of these races.
Without a doubt. All right, David, thanks so much. This has really been fascinating to me. And, of course, we want to connect. We've already tagged you on social media as well. But what's the one-stop shop where people should go to follow the work that you do? Because you guys look into things that other people just don't have the resources to do to produce the information you do.
Yeah, I appreciate that, guys. Newsbusters.org is the quickest way, and all the social channels are right there listed for you.
Got some thoughts on that? Let me know. 314-912-1019. And by the way, if you are right now watching us on video or you've just got us tuned in on the radio, don't forget to go get the streaming app. It is free. Look for NewsTalkSTL on any of the app stores that you have. Free, downloaded, and you can take us anywhere you want to go right there from your Bluetooth or just right there from your phone. Once again, all one word, NewsTalkSTL.
Free speech is alive and well in America right here.
It's about time somebody stood up for true American values.
What this country needs is some backbone.
Finally, a president who wants to make real change.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
If you turned 65 recently like me, It's important you find a Medicare Advantage plan that gives you the coverage you're looking for. But finding one can be difficult. The best thing I did, and I suggest you do the same, is call a licensed insurance agent and let them walk you through your Medicare Advantage plan options. There are so many benefits you have access to, so make the call now and let the representatives explain everything to you. Our licensed insurance agents can offer you a variety of Medicare Advantage plans. Plus, the call is free, the information is free, and there's no obligation to enroll. We're here to make it easy for you to select a Medicare Advantage plan that may work for your needs. Finding a Medicare Advantage plan can be easy if you do what I did. Make a quick call right now to learn more. Thank you.
800-439-7851. 800-439-7851. 800-439-7851. That's 800-439-7851.
Do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Are you being audited or investigated? Has the IRS sent you a letter demanding payment? You may not owe what they claim. Make this free call to the tax doctor now. Let them negotiate with the IRS on your behalf.
800-240-4586. 800-240-4586. That's 800-240-4586.
What's the best way to get rid of a timeshare that you don't want? Call the Timeshare Exit Hotline. We're a group of attorneys that help customers legally exit their timeshares. It's an easy process. We guarantee results or you pay nothing. Exit your timeshare today. Call now.
800-524-1641. 800-524-1641. That's 800-524-1641.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small remote device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you're testing your blood sugar 4 or more times per day, injecting insulin 3 or more times per day, or using an insulin pump, call the Diabetic Health Hotline today.
800-515-2380. That's 800-515-2380. Paid for by U.S. Med.
As a young military wife, my husband and I did the best we could on low wages. My husband thought WIC was just a handout, so we hadn't applied. Another Army wife told me how much it helped her family, so we signed up the next week and found that WIC was not just about supplemental food for babies and kids. It's about education and learning healthy habits. WIC wasn't a handout. It was a godsend for our small family.
WIC, feed your family's future. This institution is an equal opportunity provider.
Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Okay, I'm going to say this with like all seriousness because sometimes I like to start with something snarky and that sort of thing. If you don't have to go out today, don't.
Please do not.
Yeah, just don't. I came in and it was I think it was -5 actual temperature when I came in. Now I've got some decent gloves. You know, I got my boots on today and my thick outdoorsy socks on underneath it. I was here in the building a half an hour before my fingers felt like they were thawing out, and I had gloves on the whole time. It really is that cold. The wind chills are going to be at times between -15 and -25. So it really, the snow was done falling. And by the way, it was just a complete powdery dry snow. I mean, I cleared everything off my car literally just like with a broom. I mean, it was easy.
Oh, you got lucky then.
Very lucky, yeah. Because my car was not warm when the snow started falling, so nothing melted and froze on it. But the roads, not great. But passable if you have an emergency. There'll be a lot of people going back to work today. I would think by later on today, the road should pretty much be cleared, which is kind of what we thought was going to happen.
Yeah, but again, if you're going to like a store or a restaurant or something, you know, the parking lots there may still be covered in snow and compact. That's kind of what happened in the area that I'm at. Is I had to sort of dig myself back out because I plowed once and then it just clumped up and hardened.
Right. Yep. Exactly. So the bottom line is, it's not about the snow today. The roads are not great. I slipped a little, and I wasn't driving fast at all. It's just extreme cold.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you got to watch for. So just, again, a lot of schools are closed. Some city governments are closed today, just because of the weather and all the snow. Looks like for the most part, we got about 10 to 12 inches of snow around the area. So it was pretty close to what exactly they were predicting Thursday and Friday. So we got, and then I think the snow ended a little bit earlier. They said it was going to continue through 6. I think it was basically done around 2 o'clock or so. So as winter snowfall storms go, not the worst you're ever going to have, but this cold is about as cold as I ever remember.
Yeah, well, I was sitting out there waiting for my vehicle to thaw out. If you've seen The Shining, the scene with Jack Nicholson in the labyrinth there, I identified with that entirely. I was sitting there, I'm like, it's so cold that my breath is crystallizing in front of me.
Yeah, it was that kind of like you walk outside and it like grabs your breath out of you. It's so cold kind of thing.
The moment I walked out of my place, a gust of wind blew a bunch of like icy snow right in my face. I said, okay, that's how we're starting the morning, I guess.
It's like that meme that starts off, it's like the air hurts my face. Why am I living where the air hurts my face? I mean, kind of like that. So bottom line, if you don't have to go out, I know you may be cooped up a little bit, maybe a little bit of cabin fever, but it's just not worth it. At least wait till later. The temperatures are going to be like this for a while, but for today, we're talking wind chills, according to our friends over KMOV, and I've got this in the news up. At times, it could be minus 25.
Wow.
I mean, that's just brutal. So anyway, all right, 5:54 right now. Obviously, the Alex Preddy shooting here. So I want to dig into this in a little more cerebral way. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to withhold judgment on this one. The Renee Good shooting, pretty cut and dry.
Yeah.
Pretty cut and dry. She caused her own death. Now, Alex Preddy put himself in that position.
Mm-hmm.
What he did was phenomenally stupid, but I'd like to get more information before I personally decide whether I think law enforcement went too far or whether they were definitely. And I've got some big issues with things that at least 3 members of the Trump administration said regarding the Second Amendment.
Yeah, this specific case, I agree entirely as well. I think that we need to get more evidence and have more time to actually form an opinion on it. But what Kash Patel said in response to that really got under my skin.
And I've got that here.
Okay, beautiful.
So, and here's the other aspect on that is that one of the pushbacks that members of the Trump administration are saying is absolutely true. The officers don't have the luxury of slow motion frame by frame replay from all the video out there. They are in the heat of the moment. And so that's part of what we need to consider. When somebody shows up with a weapon at a protest, they're putting themselves in a bad spot. But when Kash Patel says you don't have a right to have a weapon at a protest, that's just false.
Factually
I mean, it's just demonstrably false. It's either he's lying or he just doesn't understand the Constitution. One or the other.
Well, and it comes from the context because he was also, Kash Patel was one of the people that was sticking up for Kyle Rittenhouse.
Mm-hmm.
And I support Kyle Rittenhouse. He did nothing wrong, in my opinion, but it's just a flopping of it. And you cannot be making hardline statements like that if you're not going to be actually factual.
So here's what I'm asking everybody, because I suspect most people have made up their mind based on I am pro-ICE, pro-DHS, or I'm anti-ICE, anti-DHS. And this is just the excuse to sort of harden the battle lines. I'm saying take it case by case. I mean, I've looked at all the video from the Renee Good situation. I've looked up the laws, both federal and in Minnesota also. Renee Good caused her own death. The officer did nothing wrong. I haven't made up my mind on this particular one yet. Maybe I'll come to the same conclusion, but I just want to learn more.
Why leave your company's story to chance? In today's digital world, video content isn't just an option. It's essential for your success. At Blue Ocean Media Group, we've spent decades crafting compelling visual stories for businesses just like yours. From concept to completion, our award-winning team transforms your vision into powerful video content that connects with your audience and drives results. Don't trust your brand to amateurs. Partner with Blue Ocean Media Group. Visit BlueOceanMediaGroup.com today, and let's bring your story to life.
People ask all the time, who the heck is Low Cost Airlines? Well, we're not just one airline. When you're talking to us, you're talking to everyone. We are the discount supermarket for all airline tickets. Plus, we have all the airlines and always have the best prices. American, Delta, United, plus all the specialized international airlines and a lot more. And we make it easy. We guarantee you'll talk to a live human in 60 seconds. You can have the rates you need and have your trip booked in 5 minutes. Now, how cool is that? And remember, when you're talking to us, it's like talking to every single airline available with one fast phone call. All you need to do is call and find the best prices to fly wherever it is you want to go. So are you ready? Call Low Cost Airlines right now. 800-515-2397. 800-515-2397. 800-515-2397. That's 800-515-2397.
It's more than a rebellion. When your teen is slipping into drugs or alcohol, when social media and pornography consume their time and their mind, when depression and even suicidal thoughts cast a shadow over your home, as a parent, you feel powerless. There is hope. At Turnabout Ranch, troubled teens step away from the chaos and into a clarity of nature on a working cattle ranch. Care for horses, learn responsibility, build trust, and rediscover purpose. It isn't theory, it's real work, real therapy, real healing. Families from across the country have found transformation right here, just when they thought hope was gone. If your teen is struggling with addiction, harmful online behaviors, even weight management, call right now and get the help you all need.
800-219-2494. 800-219-2494. 800-219-2494. That's 800-219-2494.
Need to replace your Social Security card? In most states, you can request one online with a My Social Security account. A My Social Security account gives you secure access to your personal earnings history and benefit status. You can also get a proof of income letter, estimate and apply for benefits, and more. Save time. Go online. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security. Securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at NewsTalkSTL.com.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. I'm Rich Thomason. More than 4,600 flights canceled or delayed so far today as a large swath of the country deals with the aftermath of that monster winter storm, spreading snow and ice from New Mexico to New England, and now the bitter cold has taken hold, prompting rescue missions and other shelters to open their doors even wider to those in the streets. Morgan McLucky with the Orange Tent Project in Chicago.
Shelters and warming centers aren't like a one-size-fits-all solution. Obviously, if you go to a shelter or warming center, you can't bring all your belongings with you. Also, the shelters and warming centers are so far and few between in the city unless you have like a phone where you can Google Maps how to get there, or unless you have a bus card to even get there in general.
Hundreds of thousands of utility customers have been left in the dark by the storm. The severe weather blamed for at least a dozen deaths. Homeland Security launching an investigation of the fatal shooting of an armed man by a federal agent in Minneapolis. Border Patrol Commander Greg Bavino says the incident will be thoroughly investigated.
The investigation is going to uncover all those facts, things like how many shots were fired, where were the weapons located. All those facts are going to come out in the investigation. I wasn't there wrestling that assaultive subject that was assaulting Border Patrol agents. I wasn't there wrestling him myself, so I'm not going to speculate.
Meanwhile, the anti-ICE unrest continues in Minneapolis. President Trump is urging state and city officials to cooperate with the feds instead of further inflaming an already explosive situation. As efforts to end the war in Ukraine go on, Ukrainian President Zelensky says a security agreement with the United States now 100% ready for signing. The Dow futures are flat. More on these stories, townhall.com.
Is your dog a picky eater, scratching all the time, eating grass, or licking their paws until they're raw? If so, your dog's trying to tell you something. Greetings, naturopathic Dr. Dennis Black, founder of Rough Greens here, and you may not know what your dog means, but I do. They're trying to tell you that his digestive tract is in distress. He needs live probiotics and enzymes, and guess what? You can't get that from kibble. It's not in there. The good news is you don't have to change his food to improve his health. Just add a scoop of Rough Greens. It's America's #1 nutritional dog supplement for a reason. With live vitamins, omega oils, antioxidants, enzymes, and probiotics, just sprinkle it on your dog's food and watch them come back to life. More energy, shinier coat, better digestion, all in 90 days or less. Want a happier, healthier dog? I'll send you a free Jumpstart trial bag. You just cover the shipping. Go to roughgreens.com. Use discount code PICKY. That's RUFFgreens.com. Discount code PICKY. Rough Greens. So good, your dog will ask for it by name.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Layer up, my friends. It is brutally cold out there this morning. An extreme cold warning in effect until noon. After starting the day with wind chills between 15 and 25 degrees below zero. My forecast high today is only 15. Top wind chills around 3 this afternoon, and that's with the sunshine. Not as cold tonight. Still frigid, though. Down to 10 for the low early Tuesday morning. Mostly sunny and warmer tomorrow afternoon, but minimal melting with a high at 29. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Chris Cooper and Serenity Wealth Management. Discover little-known strategies that could be the difference between choosing the care you deserve or having someone else decide it for you. Get a free copy of Chris's book at serenityltc.com.
Streaming TV is where it's at. It's not about cutting the cord anymore. That's old news. It's all about your customized TV options. With the best and cheapest high-speed internet and your own TV subscriptions, we've got your dream TV lineup. Between wired and satellite internet and TV, you now have tons of options. Save money and get more internet speed and better TV today by calling the Whole Home Connect. We scan your location and offer you the best TV and internet options. And we always have specials and promotions. So when you call, ask about that. Take 5 minutes of your time. Make this free call now and learn how to save money and get better internet and TV for your home anywhere in the U.S. Make this simple and free call now.
800-257-1632. 800-257-1632. 800-257-1632. That's 800-257-1632.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
I listen to News Talk STL on the app driving to work.
Download the News Talk STL app.
You got to get the News Talk STL app.
Love the app. Can listen anywhere in St. Louis.
And listen anytime.
News Talk STL right on my phone.
Anywhere. This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning is brought to you by Stifel. Request a portfolio review from your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. Mike Ferguson.
Boo! Relax, nerd.
Susie Moore.
And that would be a good time to respond with some applause.
Get up! Get up! Can't you hear the alarm? Get up, St. Louis.
That's a banana republic without the banana.
Mike Ferguson in the Morning on News Talk STL.
All right, the snowfall is over, but the weather is still dangerous.
Yes.
I mean, it's ugly. By the way, good to see you, Susie. We weren't sure you were going to be in when we
I
left
crept
on Friday.
along.
We were coming up with like Plan B to have you connect on the computer and everything.
Yeah, I was prepared to bail out and say, "Hey guys, can't do it." But I mean, the roads were not great, and I crept. I kind of kept it slow. But yeah, no, I made it okay.
So I practiced all of my Susie impersonations for nothing. Thanks a lot.
That's right.
Wow. Oh well, we'll just have to hear some of them.
Jeez. All right, outrage over another federal law enforcement involved shooting. Now, the outrage being directed two different directions, as we see. One at law enforcement, another at the left-wing agitators. So essentially, it's been amped up here.
Plenty to go around.
Yeah, it just depends on your politics. So those agitators, by the way, include the elected officials.
Yes, they do.
And we're going to start off with hearing from Governor Tim Walz, his reaction has been 100% irresponsible on this. There's no way that even he doesn't understand what he's doing at this point. I don't think he's the brightest guy on the planet, but I think his IQ is above the point where he understands what he's doing. Yeah, I really do. Also, the man accused of killing a Herman police officer hears the verdict in that case as well. It is 6:07. Let's go ahead and get started, man. We're jumping right in on this Monday.
Wake up, America. It all worked out. They got all the news.
The Morning News Dump.
Okay, and we've got another fatal shooting in Minneapolis. 37-year-old Alex Preddy was killed by Border Patrol agents during a protest on Saturday. Speaking with reporters, here's Governor Tim Walz. He is demanding federal law enforcement get out, and of course he's accusing President Trump of trying to make an example of his state.
We believe in law and order in this state. We believe in peace. And we believe that Donald Trump needs to pull these 3,000 untrained agents out of Minnesota before they kill another person. And we're up here telling another story of a Minnesotan just trying to live their life without the interference.
I don't know that.
That's lies.
I don't know that Tim Walz could have licked the gutter anymore with that response.
That's just lies.
Yeah.
Like 95% of what he said was factually untrue.
Right. Demonstrably. And that's why I say is he's got to know that. It's one thing to buy into your ideology so much you put blinders on, but that's basically doing a wallow in the gutter is what he's doing right there.
Agreed.
Yeah. Now, on the other side of that, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem commenting after the shooting happened.
An individual approached U.S. Border Patrol officers with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun. The officers attempted to disarm this individual, but the armed suspect reacted violently. Fearing for his life and for the lives of his fellow officers around him, an agent fired defensive shots.
Okay, so 620, let's dig into this. What's happened on these cases is that everybody immediately retreats to their tribe.
Yep.
I think we should say, let's find out what really happened. I don't think anybody went out of their way to kill somebody, but I'm not certain that the law enforcement officers got this one right. At the same time, Alex Preddy begged for problems and begged for trouble with his actions as well. So it's the best case scenario is everybody screwed up.
Yeah. I mean, the best case scenario is, no one would be dead.
Well, yeah, but given where
we
right
are, yeah, I mean, I guess you could say the best case scenario is that there wasn't a law enforcement screw up, but I think there's plenty of room to question whether there might have been here.
Exactly.
Without it necessarily being, criminally actionable.
Yeah, and that doesn't change whether or not you support law enforcement.
Absolutely not.
They don't have the luxury of slow motion frame by frame video the way that we do, but we'll go through what we know and dig into that. But also, I think there is a lot of room to critique some of the Trump administration's reaction to this.
Yeah, and some of the rhetoric, yes.
Yes, precisely.
Agreed.
All right, we'll get into that here in a few minutes. 314-912-1019. Got some thoughts on that. Obviously, you can shoot us notes on social media as well. Okay, over the weekend, the man accused of killing one Herman police officer and wounding another in 2023 was convicted. That first-degree murder verdict was handed down in Franklin County Court on Saturday. Kenneth Lee Simpson shot both Sergeant Mason Griffith and Officer Adam Solentrup at a convenience store. Griffith was killed, and Solentrup needed extensive rehab to return home. The sentencing phase of the proceedings begins this week. Prosecutors are seeking the death penalty. Man, it's hard to believe that was 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago that happened. That just seems like we were just talking about it yesterday because it was it was a shocking situation, but two, you just don't think of things like that in Herman and wine country.
No.
On something like,
No. Horrible situation, but I'm glad the jury convicted him.
Yeah. All right. Thousands of flights were canceled as expected amid that storm throughout the U.S. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy was on the big weekend show on Fox, and he was warning Americans the airlines just don't have the capacity to fix it in one day.
And again, I am sorry that this gentleman is dead, but he did bring a 9mm.
That is the wrong secretary. That is the wrong secretary. That is Scott Bessent. We'll get into that here. Here's Sean Duffy here.
You just got to fill in the aircraft that we have. And so you'll see fuller flights as we look out to the next week.
Okay, so the deadline for the airlines to get everything back up and running is Wednesday because that's when I'm flying to a tropical climate.
We'll let them know.
Well, yeah,
I'll
put
out my feelers to Secretary Duffy and let him know.
As long as it's cleared up by Wednesday, then we're good. Yeah. All right, so let's see here, and we'll get into a little bit later what I get to do. I keep looking at the weather forecast where I'm going, and I'm like, 82.
Shut up.
I'll send you videos.
Brr.
I'm saying.
We got to pelt them with some snowballs.
I know,
Yes.
you probably, before I go, yeah. Okay, the snowfall totals around the area generally between 10 and 12 inches throughout most of the weekend. Now, the concern is the Arctic cold. In all seriousness, the actual low temperatures today are going to be around -5. I think that's about where we are right now, actually.
Yeah.
Pretty close to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and our friends at KMOV Weather say wind chills are dropping. They could drop. This is not a typo here. I double-checked it. They could drop to -25 at times.
That's cold.
Yeah. So many roads are still snow-covered. Roads weren't fantastic on the way into work. If you go very, very slow and don't slam on the brakes, you can get by, but best thing to do is stay in today. I think by the end of the day, the roads should be close to passable on the main roads for the most part. But I haven't been out on the highway too much.
The highway was cleared for like 2 lanes of travel generally were cleared. But I was a little leery of going too fast while some people were like flying by me. I was like, what are you
that's nuts.
What are you doing?
That's crazy.
What are you doing?
Yeah, I was just kind of crawling along this morning, but I had the luxury.
I was topping out at 60.
Yeah.
But I was in the right lane. I mean, I was trying not to be the granny about it.
Yep. All right, we're going to do this in a little more detail in a little bit here. Ameren is asking customers to conserve energy next day or so.
Okay.
That's to prevent putting too much demand on the grid during the extreme cold. Right now, the company says this is a precautionary request and that there is enough energy on hand to meet the current needs. So we'll get into a little more of that in just a bit.
I don't know if I can exceed to their demands.
Yeah, it's like I was like, that's nice. Hope somebody else does it. Okay, just saying. All right, Blues are off today. They're going to be back on home ice on Tuesday. Stars are going to be in town for this one. And you know what? They don't get a lot of attention, but the St. Louis Ambush in the MASL had a busy weekend. They split a home-and-home series with the Milwaukee Wave. I actually watched both those. They broadcast those games free on YouTube.
Okay.
So I watched both the games. Saturday, the Ambush got a 5-3 win at the Family Arena. Sunday, the Wave won in overtime. Unfortunately, they came back from 2 goals down. Looks like the Ambush had it in hand, and then the Wave came back, sent it into overtime, and then with about 38 seconds into the overtime, they scored. Final score 7-6. The Ambush are going to be back at home hosting Tacoma on February 7th. That was a fun game to watch because I thought, man, the Ambush, they were kind of disoriented in the first quarter, but they held on, and then they just took charge of the game, and they just didn't hold on to it. So that was actually a big game as far as the standing goes in the MASL. If you haven't checked out one of those games, they're actually a lot of fun. It moves really fast, a lot of goals.
Fun.
So it's like soccer, but fun.
Stop it right now before you blow us all away. You wanna do that now? Get up, can't you hear the alarm?
Mike Ferguson in the morning
They were drinking water out of the toilet.
on News Talk STL.
If you love your pet, which I know you do, then they deserve the excellent treatment and care they'll receive at Pacific Animal Hospital in Pacific, Missouri, a full-service veterinarian facility. Originally built and grown by my dad, Dr. Bill Jones, a new generation of wonderful veterinarians and staff at Pacific continue to provide outstanding medical, surgical, dental, boarding, and grooming services for your favorite furry friends. Our family entrusts the care of our pets only to the experienced docs and staff at Pacific Animal Hospital. You should too. Call them today, 636-257-2100, 24/7 at PacificVets.com, PacificVets.com.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness One. Wellness One is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on NewsTalkSTL. And you can visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
Hey, it's Susie Moore. If new flooring makes you think hassle, think again, because Michael's Flooring is changing the game. For over 30 years, Michael's has been locally owned and trusted for quality, variety, and amazing service. Whether it's carpet, hardwood, laminate, luxury vinyl, or ceramic tile, their expert team makes installing new floors exciting, not stressful. That's why customers keep coming back. Visit Michael's Flooring at St. Peter's, Starting Prairie, Creve Coeur, or online at igotfloored.com. That's igotfloored.com.
Bill O'Reilly here. Check out the O'Reilly Update this afternoon at 3:45. Right now, it's back to Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Okay, this is one of those, a lot of things can be true at the same time. He put himself in that situation. Alex Preddy brought this situation into being. But what actually happened? And that's what we're trying to get through. And what's the response? It's at some point, because Bill Maloogian over at Fox News, so not exactly a left of center media figure. I mean, he shoots it pretty straight, and he does a really good job. He posted something on X. He basically wrote an article and put it on X that I think is worth hearing, just so people understand what some of the momentum is on this. So Alex Preddy is the guy, of course, media is praising him. He's a VA nurse and, all this kind of stuff. He showed up at this anti-federal law enforcement protest.
I want to stop that right there.
Yeah.
It wasn't actually a protest.
What was it?
It was an operation, and they showed up to observe and interfere with it. In other words, there wasn't like the signs and that sort of thing. These were people there to get in the way of law enforcement.
Yeah, and then the scrum happened. He's armed. He ends up getting shot, and now we're Monday morning quarterbacking the whole thing.
Right.
So let's dig into it, because listen, I know who the good guys are and the bad guys are here. That I'm not questioning that, but I do think that we need to say let's evaluate every situation individually here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you can do that and still be on the side of the good guys here. So some of the things that we know, like for instance, at this point, the understanding is he was disarmed of that handgun that we've all seen the picture of.
Yes.
On this, he was disarmed prior to the shots being fired.
Correct.
Yes.
And we don't have any evidence that his gun was discharged.
No, there's some question about whether there was an accidental discharge from it in the process of it being taken away, but there's also some pretty good evidence that did not actually happen.
Right. So that's the thing I want to wait to get a confirmation of before we demonize the law enforcement.
Exactly.
And but it doesn't change the fact that this contributed to what happened, the fact that he had it there.
And I also want to point out as well, so there are a lot of people saying that the gun looks weird, the gun looks odd. This is a standard 6-Sawyer P320 firearm, which all throughout last year was going viral because they were having accidental negligent discharges without the trigger being pulled. So
that adds to the
speculation
and confusion.
But the fact of the matter is, on camera before the shots fired, you can see the officer that confiscated the firearm from him leaving, like walking away before the fatal shot was,
Yeah, which is why I'm cautioning everybody against like immediate. You can still say I'm on the side of federal law enforcement. I'm on the side of mass deportations, and still say, let's find out what really happened.
Yes.
Because it really is a big deal.
Well, if you are on the side of of law enforcement and deportations, then you want to make sure that anything like this that happens is properly investigated and examined, because you want to make sure that these things don't turn into, mistakes aren't made and people don't get accidentally killed unnecessarily. So I don't know.
Yeah.
You should want it to be a thorough investigation.
You should, because, we do hold law enforcement to a higher standard because we give them the power of life and death in the moment.
Yes.
And so there should be, and that is a conservative position to be. So Bill Maloogian from Fox News, he wrote a very, very short article and posted it on X, and it's creating a lot of discussion here. These are just his words, what he wrote. He said, since yesterday's deadly shooting in Minnesota, I've talked to more than a half a dozen federal sources involved in immigration enforcement, including several in senior positions, who all tell me they have grown increasingly uneasy and frustrated with some of the claims and narratives DHS pushed in the aftermath of the shooting. Now, remember, this is Bill Maloogian. This is Fox News here, okay? He goes on to say, specifically, I'm told there is extreme frustration with DHS officials going on TV and putting out statements claiming that Alex Preddy was intending to conduct a massacre of federal agents or wanted to carry out maximum damage, even after numerous videos appeared to show those claims were inaccurate. While they say it was a terrible decision to show up with a gun and eject himself into a federal law enforcement operation, there's no indication Preddy was there to murder law enforcement, as video appears to show he never drew his holstered firearm, which which I got to question that as well, because there was one picture where it appears that he was holding it outside of his
that was his phone.
That was the phone?
We think it was his phone.
Okay.
So the frame that a lot of people are sharing around
Right.
is there is something in his hand, but it does not appear like any sort of firearm. There is
Okay.
an AI enhanced
Maybe-
digital version,
yeah.
and people are claiming that was a firearm, but we don't have confirmation of that. Yet.
There's also an AI enhanced version that has the cop leaning over him, holding the gun down, like the famous picture of the Vietnam. Was it Vietnam?
Yeah, no, Cambodia, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, guys, that's AI.
Yeah.
You're missing the cop's head.
Right.
Like it's.
Yeah, see, and this is the crap that just drives me nuts. Okay, and Bill Maloogian goes on. He says, these sources say this messaging from DHS officials has been catastrophic from a PR and morale perspective, as it is eroding trust and credibility, comparing it to when the Democrats falsely claimed the border was closed or that Haitians were being whipped at the border. Interesting comparison there. Yeah. And then again, at Bill Maloogian, if you want to see it for yourself. He says, some of these sources have described DHS's response to the shooting as, quoting here, a case study on how not to do crisis PR. One said that they are so fed up that they wish they could retire. Another said DHS is making the situation worse. And another added that DHS is wrong and we are losing this war and we are losing the base and the narrative. I don't know that they're necessarily losing the base, but there's only so much chaos. Eventually, human nature is going to be, I'm retreating from the chaos just out of like my own personal mental, condition, and people are going to start disengaging. So if by losing the base, that part could be a risk, but I think they'll say, hey, I'm rooting for you, but I'm out.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a whole spectrum of responses to this amongst the base.
Yeah.
And I do think I too am troubled by some of the language that the administration officials chose to use in describing what happened, because it doesn't align with what you see. Right. And it goes a step too far, and it doesn't need to. They don't need to do that to defend their operation and their personnel.
Yeah, and that doesn't excuse what Alex Preddy did by any stretch.
It doesn't, but it undermines their narrative then on anything else, whether it's the Renee Good situation or anything else. It's like, okay, well, you were not being accurate, let's say, in your description here, and so now what is true and what's not?
Yeah, and the response from a lot of people on our side of things is really concerning as well, considering they've already latched on to the idea that if you are somewhere with a firearm, then you must be there to necessitate, you got something?
Right. Here's Kash Patel being interviewed by Maria Bartiromo on Fox. And to her credit, and to some of the credit of some of the conservative media, they're quickly going, hold on a second. They're kind of doing what we're doing on this. Here's the clip.
But as Secretary Noem said, no one who wants to be peaceful shows up at a protest with a firearm that is loaded with 2 full magazines. That is not a peaceful protest, and you do not get to touch law enforcement. You do that anywhere, this FBI is going to be leading the charge to arrest those.
But how was he threatening Border Patrol? You've collected the evidence, you said, right? You have the handgun in your possession?
That's right.
And how was he using that handgun in terms of threatening Border Patrol? What was the threat? He had his camera, right? He was filming it.
That's something that I will let the DHS and the prosecutors, because they are the ones investigating that case. I don't want to stylize that evidence, but I trust the men and women on the ground who are trained professionals to only use it when it's absolutely necessary. And I trust Secretary Noem's leadership and DHS and HSI to do the right thing, as they've always done in these scenarios. As Christy said, you cannot bring a firearm loaded with multiple magazines to any sort of protest that you want. It's that simple. You don't have that right to break the law and incite violence.
Okay, so Kash Patel is just wrong on that last part. And that is an anti-Second Amendment statement, but it doesn't mean that Alex Preddy still didn't do something really stupid and put himself in a bad position. But it's concerning to me when the FBI director says, no, you don't get to have your Second Amendment rights everywhere. And if we don't like you, you don't get your Second Amendment rights. I mean, just like, some people were saying, if you're got, gender dysphoria, we shouldn't allow you to have a second. No, Second Amendment is Second Amendment. Until you commit a crime with it, you've got a Second Amendment right. And it's not a matter of, well, Mike, you're out defending these nutcase leftists. No, I don't like the nutcase leftists any more than you do. But if I can't defend their First or Second or Fourth or 10th Amendment rights, then I can't defend mine.
Yeah, Minnesota, in fact, does have stricter gun laws than Missouri, but Missouri is a
which are unconstitutional, but
absolutely.
Yeah.
But for the sake of just being more accurate, so in Missouri, for example, we were a constitutional carry state. You can have a firearm on you without a license. I go to protest just to be an observer, not to interact with anybody besides ask them questions. I don't go out touching people, obviously, and that I can agree. You shouldn't be touching law enforcement or the protesters.
Of course.
You know, but if there's not a metal detector, I'm armed. And why is it okay? Well, how is it that if that happened to me, then all of a sudden the narrative's going to become, well, Jerome went out there to clearly he was armed, so he wanted to do something. No, it's called exercising your rights. If you're not brandishing your weapon, threatening people and firing at people, you're not doing anything wrong by having one on you.
I agree. I mean, I'm troubled by two facets of the messaging from people that I genuinely support and want to see succeed, and that is he didn't have the right to be there with the gun. Yes, he did. Yeah. And that he was intent on a massacre. We don't know that, and that wasn't what his behavior was up until the moment of the confrontation. He was interfering.
Yeah,
he was
right. Yeah,
getting in the middle way of traffic.
Like I said, he put himself in that position.
He absolutely did. But there was no indication at any point that he was there with the intent of, if he was there with the intent of massacring law enforcement, why wasn't his gun out and why wasn't he shooting before any of that interaction? Yeah. It just doesn't add up. And we don't know. We'll never know what was his true ultimate thought process or intent. But it's disappointing because they're undermining their own cause in the process of trying to defend what happened. And it doesn't help anybody.
No, it doesn't. But also the saying, you don't have a right to have a gun going to a protest.
Yeah, you do.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
Now you are then, charged with being responsible in how you're handling it in yourself. In fact, you probably have a heightened responsibility if you're carrying to make sure you're not getting into physical confrontations and certainly not getting into it with law enforcement.
Yeah, no, he committed multiple crimes by interfering with the federal law enforcement, without a doubt. But being armed when there was a federal law enforcement situation going on, if that stayed in his holster, no, he does have a right to do that. Kash Patel's just full of crap on that.
Doesn't help. Does not help. The need to deal with illegal immigration isn't only about safety, although that's crucial. Could it also be about business and our economy? We're going to dig into that at 6:35.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
He picked the wrong schoolyard to come into, I have to tell you this.
On Newstalk STL. News, analysis, opinion.
He should pick up the phone and he should say that he will cooperate with this president, making Minnesota safer.
We know there's organized groups. We know there's funding. Who's inciting the violence?
101.9 and 94.1 Newstalk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Layer up, my friends. It is brutally cold out there this morning. An extreme cold warning in effect until noon. After starting the day with wind chills between 15 and 25 degrees below zero. My forecast high today is only 15. Top wind chills around 3 this afternoon, and that's with the sunshine. Not as cold tonight. Still frigid, though. Down to 10 for the low early Tuesday morning. Mostly sunny and warmer tomorrow afternoon, but minimal melting with a high at 29. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
Life's legal challenges deserve experienced representation. For over 15 years, Cole Combs Attorney at Law has been serving St. Charles and surrounding counties with comprehensive legal expertise. From tax preparation and estate planning to family law and criminal defense, Cole delivers personalized solutions for your unique situation. You have traffic tickets, need a business formation, real estate matters, one call will handle it all. Cole O. Combs Attorney at Law. Call 636-949-0010 extension 3 today or visit colecombs-law.com.
Looking for an underwater adventure or a scaly new friend? Dive into Tropical World Pets on Watson Road. For 32 years, this family-owned wonderland has been St. Louis's go-to destination for all things aquatic and reptilian. With over 7,000 square feet of aquariums, we're home to the area's largest selection of freshwater fish, including rare cichlids you won't find anywhere else. But that's not all. We've got tarantulas, snakes, and lizards galore. Tropical World Pets, 314-849-4020, or visit twpstl.com.
Now you can fly anywhere in the world and pay discount prices on your airline tickets. Book a flight today to London, Paris, Madrid, or anywhere else you want to go. And pay a lot less guaranteed. Call the International Travel Department right now at Low Cost Airlines.
800-515-2397. 800-515-2397. That's 800-515-2397.
On the next Larry Connors USA.
Today's story behind the story, the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre.
Larry Connors USA. Now weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL.
Good morning, Missouri. It's your boy, Joe Pags. I'll talk to you tonight at 10. But right now, let's get back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
All right, let's look at one of the bigger pictures here. It's not just about the public safety, although that's obviously the key point, the crucial point here. Is it also about growing the economy and about opportunity? How are federal law enforcement mass deportations connected to the business environment and the economy and opportunity? Can you draw a direct line between those two? For instance, there was a letter that was sent out, or a statement that was sent out by like 60 CEOs in Minneapolis or in Minnesota. Like that includes Target and some of the others. They're all based there. And they're now like calling for, de-escalation. I don't know that when the heat is on, in a really, really dangerous situation, somebody's going to say, I wonder what Target thinks, about this. But businesses are taking note.
It's affecting the bottom line.
Right. And that brings the question is how does the immigration enforcement and how does the actions to find and deport illegal aliens affect that opportunity? We're now joined by Scimeca. He is with the Consumer Action for a Strong Economy, otherwise known as CASE. Gerald, thanks for being on the program here. So the argument being made is that federal law enforcement, immigration enforcement is good for business and the economy. And a lot of people in the heat of the moment aren't stopping to think about, wait a minute, what's the connection there? What is that connection between this aspect of federal law enforcement and businesses and the economy?
Yeah, good morning. Thank you for having me. Well, it's fairly self-obvious that when you have without law and order, without safety, it's very difficult to maintain a strong business community, to have an area where people will want to go shopping or businesses will be set up. And you just have, in general, one of the main social projects that had been going on since the Reagan administration was to police areas for enterprise zones where they were encouraging tax breaks to have minority businesses and build up some of these cities that, if you look at the result of a lot of the political riots from the 60s and the 70s, left cities like Detroit, Chicago, and New York absolutely devastated. There's some shows you can see. Now there was a documentary about Chevy Chase where he was a young guy and he got an apartment, right on, right across in Central Park. It had cockroaches in it, but it was affordable. You could live anywhere there. When they finally started, cleaning up the city with Rudy Giuliani, it really transformed everything. So, there's the broken window theory, too, about how when you have a small, graffiti, focus on that or focus on some of the smaller areas of crime because, people will respect an area that's well patrolled, well maintained, and cleaned. And that's where businesses are going to want to go. But really, these riots are just, devastating regular people. The $2 billion just from Minneapolis and the George Floyd riots of insurance claims. It trickles all the way across the economy to where everybody, all your listeners and the rest of us, we're paying more. There's a direct line that we're paying more in housing, both in the cost of housing and rentals and construction, healthcare, food staples, banking and financial services, insurance, of course, government services. And part of the intention, which is really devious, is that the left and the Democrats are deliberately importing people into the country that stay on government assistance. I mean, we used to talk about how are we going to solve social problems? For as long as I remember politics, we were looking at homelessness and hunger and poverty, crime, and drug use. Are we doing so great in those areas now that we can bring in people that stay on government assistance for 10 years and they don't assimilate? And so, again, President Trump ran on this platform. A majority of people supported it. I don't know what Tim Walz and the mayor of Minneapolis plan to do about the fact that there are unknown criminal aliens living and moving about in their cities. These are people that have deportation orders or arrest warrants or have been convicted of crimes. So when they get in the way of what ICE is doing, they're really basically supporting, the criminals. They're just really in a conspiracy with the, aiders and abettors.
Mm-hmm. Gerard, so it seems to me like there's two different concepts, from economically speaking, that are in tension with one another. So you've got, obviously, from an overall 30,000-foot view, when you've got mass illegal immigration, and it's a drain on the system overall, that would have a significant economic impact. And business leaders, I would think, other than the ones that want to exploit cheap labor, would not want that. But then on the other hand, you have this argument, and I'm just saying it's an argument, it's not necessarily one that I subscribe to, from the left, that because of the aggressive immigration enforcement we're seeing, that's fomenting and that's prompting these protests, and that's causing, spurring on the unrest, which is then resulting in economic damage, insurance rates, that sort of thing, like you were talking about. How do we square those kind of competing economic interests in this discussion?
Well, I think if you're going to interfere with the legitimate actions of police enforcement, you're going to have a problem. I mean, that's really not what citizens are. The way that they should be, they have an issue with what ICE is doing. And I haven't seen any, there have been some, strong-handed incidents that have been reported now and again. I mean, they can highlight those all they want, but what are we going to do about it, I guess, was the issue. And, you could argue that maybe the president and the administration could have maybe set a timetable or worked more closely with mayors and governors, whereas sometimes the ICE agents have just been announced to arrive and then they're, on the streets. There has been markedly reduced crime in Washington and D.C., for example, where ICE agents were. But the issue really is that we saw for the prior 4 years just a flood of people, up to no one knows. They're estimated sometimes with satellites that it's up to 12 million people that crossed the border. And they were processed and sometimes taken to hotels and sometimes just taken to neighborhoods. And, they don't really know where they are other than what some of the records that, the courts have dug up from, being processed for a crime. So what do we do? Do we have these people who shouldn't be in the country, but they're also have a criminal record? I think that in the long run, the economy and just the communities are better off if those people are either encouraged to self-deport or if they're rounded up. There are headlines, and we see this, every day. It's hard to keep track of, but there are some very big gang leaders, there are cartel leaders that are implanted in the country. What also we saw with a massive Somali fraud. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what's going on in Minnesota. It's a very, very nice state if you drive through it and you spend time there, and the people are great. But between the riots in 2020, this massive Somali fraud that seems to have been given with a wink and a nod by the local the government services there, and now Tim Walz and the mayor telling people to stand up to ICE, and this guy shows up with a gun. I'm not sure exactly what you expect when you interfere with law enforcement when you have a firearm, but that's a very unfortunate outcome. But what is the solution if they're not going to work with the administration to have the people deported or rounded up or arrested?
We're visiting with Gerard Scimeca from CASE, which is Consumer Action for a Strong Economy, and we'll tell you how to find that website and social media here in just a couple of minutes. Okay, so Gerard, I would hope that nobody would disagree with when you've got the violent ones, the gang leaders, all the worst of the worst that you're talking about, that we need to find them and get rid of them. Answer this argument, because I'm going to kind of do what Susie did and just parrot what I've heard the other side say. Tens of millions of illegal aliens. Majority of them aren't, gang leaders or rapists or anything like that. Does a business care whether the person buying the meal or buying the shirt is a citizen or an illegal alien? It's still good for their bottom line to have more people in who are spending money. What's the business and the economic argument to say, no, it does make a difference why we have to deport and why we have to secure that border?
Well, there's two big reasons. Number one is because they have an inordinate dependence upon government services. There was a recent hearing in Congress where they were looking at, for example, the massive Somali immigration that's happened over the last 3 decades, where people who've been in the country more than 10 years, about 80% are still on government assistance and still don't speak the language. Now, that's a very unique culture, too, because they're very tribal. There's an author, Alex Berenson, who wrote back in 2011 when he was working on a novel. He went to Kenya and Somalia. They have 2,000 miles of coastline in Somalia, yet they don't fish, and most people don't swim. They're very inward-looking. It's a culture that's very conformist and it's very tribal. They're not here to assimilate, but to set up their own communities. So in one way, they are taking a good deal in that particular community, but also with the people that come over, they bring their families. If they're illegal, we talk to doctors all the time that they're, you have to pay in to be eligible to Medicaid. And there'll be, somebody in their 70s who has Medicaid, and you wonder, they're saying, how did this person get Medicaid? They certainly did not pay into it. So that's one part of it. The other part of it, too, is an example that we've seen in some places where there was a massive raid in Arkansas, and a meatpacking plant lost most of their employees. The next day, there was a line around the building for people looking to get work. And a lot of these people were being paid under the table, so they're not paying taxes. The business is getting a deal, and maybe someone went to jail there. It would be justified if possible. But when you have a black market economy for labor, you're really skewing the market for everybody else, because they're paying they're paying cheaper, and those people, they may go and buy goods from another store, but when American workers aren't paid the wage that they would normally get for the level of productivity that they produce, because we know that American workers working here are far more productive, but they will require things like, health benefits and things like that, which you get away with when you pay an illegal. But it corrupts the economy when you have these imbalances in it's a bit of, I don't mean to get into sort of some kind of economic lecture or anything, but when people aren't paid for the work for the jobs that they should have, and we have these pockets of black market labor, that will do a business more harm overall, because the labor market is not really being satisfied properly to where people would, Americans would go take those same jobs and also spend in the business as well. So, but long term, it would be a much more efficient economy for everybody, for business owners and workers.
All right. Yeah, pretty solid answer there. All right, Gerard, people want to learn more about CASE and what you do there. I think we've already tagged you on social media, I believe, but what's the website or if people want to look you up?
Well, we're caseforconsumers.org on the website, and on the X Twitter, case_for-America.
All right. Thanks, Gerard. Appreciate it.
Sure. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Sure. All right. The dangerous weather isn't done with St. Louis.
Nope.
And why is the energy company asking us to conserve electricity? We'll update you on that at 6:50.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
I've driven all over Washington, D.C. I cannot find the money tree.
On News Talk STL.
Mike Ferguson here. Retirement should be a time you can relax. No more stress from work. But there's one thing you can't forget about when retiring. That's your money. Do you have enough saved to fund your income for life and keep up with inflation? How will you claim your Social Security benefits? And what about long-term care? The ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel is here to help answer all of these questions. You can hear their latest views on the markets and investing during On the Money, hosted by Stifel financial advisors Bob Stockdale and Eric Robert, every Saturday morning at 9, right here on News Talk STL. They can help you get organized, guide you through critical retirement decisions, and create an investment portfolio designed around your needs. To schedule your free retirement plan consultation, go to clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com, or call 636-695-2650, 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
Concerned about the condition of your windows driving up your energy bills? I was too. It's only called STL Windows and Doors. Their Provia windows combine old world craftsmanship the professional way, the Provia way, with over 65 years of combined experience, locally owned, offering competitive pricing and personalized service that the big box companies can't match. Call today for your free in-home estimate and start saving tomorrow. 314-277-5952 or stlwindowsanddoors.com.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning is brought to you by Stifel. Request a portfolio review from your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Hey, this is Vince Colonnese. I'll talk to you tonight at 8, but now back to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show on News Talk STL.
All right, as Susie was saying, the snowfall is over, but weather is still dangerous.
Yes, it is.
All joking aside, it's dangerous.
It is.
Also, let's talk about the outrage over the federal law enforcement involved shooting. I mean, that's what the country's talking about here, and we need to have the courage to go, hold on, let's get all the facts here. Let's not fall directly back into our tribes.
There is a lot of misinformation being spread and going viral regarding what actually happened and what didn't happen.
Absolutely is.
Yeah. And so are we going to do the above the board thing and say, I want the truth, and then regardless of whether it's my side or the other side that's wrong, or both possibly here, but I want the truth rather than I just want the winning argument. I want the burn.
I want accuracy.
Yes. So that's crucial here. All right, 6:50. Let's go ahead and do another news dump here.
Successful dump. Wake up, America. It all worked out.
They got all the news.
The Morning News Dump.
Okay, Alex Preddy killed by Border Patrol agents during a scrum on Saturday that this happened here. So speaking with reporters, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz makes things even worse. He says he wants ICE out, and he's blaming President Trump for trying to make an example of the state.
We believe in law and order in this state. We believe in peace. And we believe that Donald Trump needs to pull these 3,000 untrained agents out of Minnesota before they kill another person. And we're up here telling another story of a Minnesotan just trying to live their life without the interference.
I mean, it's one thing. There are people I disagree with on almost everything, and I would go to war with them. I've got good friends that I don't agree with them on anything. I don't even follow them on social media.
It's probably for your sanity's sake.
Yeah, Tim Walz is basically going so low, he is licking the gutter.
Yeah. I mean, there are multiple verifiable lies in what he just said.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's not the brightest guy in the world, but he's not dumb enough. He can't be dumb enough to think he's actually telling the truth on this.
It depends on who he's speaking on behalf of. Let me just say that.
Goodness. All right, Christy Nome being asked about the situation as well.
The suspect also had 2 magazines with ammunition in them that held dozens of rounds. He also had no ID. This looks like a situation where an individual arrived at this scene to inflict maximum damage on individuals and to kill law enforcement.
We don't know that. that's I'm not going to say that's not what happened, but we don't know that.
That's an interpretation of that I think a lot of people that are particularly people that are 2A supporters would take issue with.
Yeah.
That in and of itself does not seem to agree with.
Right. All right. Thousands of flights, as expected, canceled amid that winter storm that hit with geographically 2/3 of the country.
Easily,
Just
over
massive.
40 states, I think. Were affected.
Yeah. So on the big weekend show on Fox, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy saying, "Heads up, everybody! The airlines aren't going to get this back on track in one day.
We just got to fill in the aircraft that we have, and so you'll see fuller flights as we look out to the next week."
And a lot of airlines are issuing travel waivers to flyers, which lets you rebook your flight with no penalty. We still have 23 states under a state of emergency at this point.
Yeah, I mean, the Southeast was just getting slammed yesterday with the freezing rain and stuff. So, it's going to be a while. We saw, I don't know if you saw scenes out of Nashville. Trees were exploding, crashing down, and I mean, it was a mess.
Yeah.
It still is.
So it's going to continue to be a mess. I will just say I just need them to not have as much of a mess my Wednesday so I can fly out of here.
Please make sure to accommodate Mike Ferguson.
Please do that. Please, airline industry. Me and my teammates need to get to, can I go ahead and say it?
Go right ahead.
Need to get to Puerto Rico this week. Just saying. All right, the snowfall totals around the area were generally between 10 and 12 inches over the weekend, which is what was predicted.
Yeah.
Now the concern is that Arctic cold. The actual low temperature today is going to be around -5. The actual temperature. Our friends at KMOV Weather say the wind chills could drop to -25 at times, and -15 is going to be pretty normal throughout the day. Many roads still snow covered. I suspect at least the main and secondary roads will probably be fairly clear by the end of the day. I mean, I'm seeing crews run all over the place.
Right.
Residential areas, depends on where you are.
The issue is because it is so cold, it's not like any of it's going to melt off.
Right.
I mean, the chemicals are going to do what they can do. And the roads are passable right now, but you got to be smart.
You got to be smart. Just don't go out if you don't have to.
Absolutely.
I was telling Jerome, I got in, about 3:15 this morning. I've got decent gloves. I was all bundled up, 3 layers, including my thick leather jacket. But I was here a half an hour before my fingers really felt like they were thawing out.
Yeah.
And I was wearing gloves from the time I left to the time I walked in here.
I've been making sure to go out with multiple layers. Saturday morning with the dogs, I was layered up so much. I don't even know how many layers I had on, but even then you can't completely escape the cold.
Nope. All right. Ameren is asking customers to conserve energy for the next day or so. That's to prevent putting too much demand on the grid during this obvious extreme cold. Among their suggestions, lower the thermostat, wear additional layers of clothes inside, cover drafty windows. That's a good idea anyway. Unplug non-essential appliances and devices. The company says this is a precautionary request and that there is enough energy on hand to meet the current needs.
So I had a little bit of a scare Friday.
Oh.
I came home because it was cold on Friday. It had already gotten cold. I got home, and this thermostat that had been set at 74 when I left, yes, I keep it warm in my apartment, was at 66. And no one had been in my apartment.
So I wonder if that's this smart meter thing.
It's not.
It's
it wasn't.
not. Okay,
No.
I didn't. Okay.
No, not in this complex.
Yeah, that's weird.
So I immediately called the office, and I was like, it's not an emergency because it's not freezing cold. And when it did come back on, when I adjusted it, it did come back on. But they sent somebody over, and they replaced my thermostat on Friday morning.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, thank God I caught that when I did.
Well, because remember we had the big debate over the smart meters that these companies are wanting. They'll give you $50 discount, but they control your meters. And so there's probably a lot of people who have
that. Was my first question was
Yeah.
did somebody from externally adjust this? And I'm like, they've never done that before. Why would, this doesn't look like a smart thermostat.
A smart meter, yeah.
Yeah.
Or a smart thermostat, yeah. And that's why in cases like this, it's like, I don't want somebody else making that decision.
No, I was grateful that they reacted as fast as they did.
Okay, Apple News actually published something helpful.
Oh.
Which is unusual for Apple News. According to their article, you should not reply to that spam text message with stop. A lot of people say, stop, unsubscribe. Even if the message says that will unsubscribe you from their contact list, they're saying don't do it. According to the article, that just confirms that your number is active and there is a person on the other side of it. Instead, if you don't know the contact, so it's not somebody that you've done business with, just report it as spam and block the number. Otherwise, you can put in stop, but they're just going to sell the number to somebody else as a verified number. Yeah.
This is the story of the one. As a custodial supervisor at a high school, he knows that during cold and flu season, germs spread fast. It's why he partners with Grainger to stay fully stocked on the products and supplies he needs, from tissues to disinfectants to floor scrubbers. All so that he can help students, staff, and teachers stay healthy and focused. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Oh no, stomach issues again?
Stomach issues?
Who are you?
Your pancreas. I could be the real reason for your diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose oily stools.
I thought it was my stomach.
People often do, but any of these symptoms could mean having a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and speak with your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
I'm Missouri Attorney General Catherine Hanaway. When severe weather hits, scammers often follow. They may pose as charities, jack up prices on essentials, or offer fraudulent home repairs. I'm committed to protecting Missourians from those scams. If you've been targeted or suspect price gouging, report it to our office at 800-392-8222 or online at ago.mo.gov.
Paid for by the Missouri Attorney General's Office. We were there when our nation called us to serve. We were there to write the original GI Bill and get it signed into law. When a community found itself in the middle of a natural disaster. When tragedy struck at a local school. For veterans who suffered from toxic exposure and needed a voice on Capitol Hill. And we're still serving as part of the American Legion. For more than 100 years, veterans have been strengthening our nation through the American Legion. Through programs that help our nation's youth become tomorrow's leaders. By keeping the spirit of our forefathers alive and well. And by helping veterans receive the benefits they earned through their service. The American Legion will be there for the next 100 years. Learn more about how we're helping in your community at legion.org.
When you've got something to say, be heard loud and clear.
If they'll just do what they were voted in to do.
This party needs to get a backbone. They need to get some spine.
Join the conversation. St. Louis's place to talk.
The Democrats and the Republicans can give us all the lip service they want, but what they need to do is take action today.
101.9 and 94.1.
You have to take a stand sometimes.
This is News Talk STL. News, analysis, and opinion. KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefontaine, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 101.9, 94.1, and always streaming at NewsTalkSTL.com.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. I'm Rich Thomason. At least a dozen deaths are blamed on the massive winter storm that spread snow and ice from the southwest to New England while ushering in dangerously cold temperatures. Jordan Nalen is a former New Yorker, recent arrival in Little Rock, Arkansas.
This is my first winter here. It's not too cold. It's not bad. I'm prepared for that with all my clothes, but just not having anything plowed is blows my mind. I'm just oh wow, you're not when it snows, you're stuck. I think that's the biggest change for me.
It could be days before power is restored to hundreds of thousands of utility customers who have been left without. People being urged to stay home and stay safe.
Don't get on the road unless it's necessary, but do please reach out to your friends and family and make sure they are okay.
Make sure they're okay. Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves there. Around 4,700 flights canceled or delayed so far today. Bitter cold not keeping anti-ICE agitators from taking to the streets of Minneapolis, where they continue harassing federal agents trying to enforce immigration law. President Trump is urging Minnesota officials to cooperate with the feds instead of pouring gasoline on the flames of division, chaos, and violence.
On social media, the president called on the Minnesota governor, Minneapolis mayor, and, quote, every Democrat governor and mayor in the United States of America to cease their sanctuary policies and partner with the federal government on enforcement of immigration laws. On Truth Social, he also called on Congress to, quote, immediately pass legislation to end sanctuary cities, which he says are the root cause of all these problems. Ken Lorman reporting.
On Wall Street, the Dow futures currently down 8 points, NASDAQ futures off 58, and the S&P futures 7 points lower. More on these stories, townhall.com.
They say timing is everything in the gold and silver markets, and it's true. Dennis Prager here for AmFed Coin and Bullion. Although you can buy at the right time, if you buy the wrong coins, you may not make a profit. When gold was $400 an ounce, many people were talked into buying high-grade old gold and silver collector's coins. Unfortunately, most of the people who bought these so-called semi-numismatic coins, like the $20 St. Gaudens and Liberty Head gold coins, have not broken even on their investment. Incredible, given that gold has risen approximately 525% since then. So while timing is everything, if you buy the wrong coins, the timing simply doesn't matter. Having a dealer who cares about positioning you in the right types of coins or bullion will mean more to your portfolio than anything else. That's why I deal with Nick Rovich and AmFed Coin and Bullion. Whether you're buying or selling, call 800-221-7694. That's 800-221-7694. Or go to AmericanFederal.com. AmericanFederal.com.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Layer up, my friends. It is brutally cold out there this morning. An extreme cold warning in effect until noon. After starting the day with wind chills between 15 and 25 degrees below zero. My forecast high today is only 15. Top wind chills around 3 this afternoon, and that's with the sunshine. Not as cold tonight. Still frigid, though. Down to 10 for the low early Tuesday morning. Mostly sunny and warmer tomorrow afternoon, but minimal melting with a high at 29. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Rodney and Jen Wallner and the entire Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. Call them today at 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD.
When water troubles strike, call the family you can trust. Tim Jones here for Ambassador Plumbing, serving our community since 2018 with 25 years of master plumbing expertise from Tim Morris and his hand-picked team. Whether it's a simple faucet repair or a complete bathroom remodel, if water runs to it or through it, they do it. From residential service calls to commercial to new construction, the folks at Ambassador are your neighbors treating you like family. Ambassador Plumbing, where faith meets craftsmanship. 636-383-6932 or ambassadorplumbing.com. That's ambassadorplumbing.com.
Why leave your company's story to chance? In today's digital world, video content isn't just an option. It's essential for your success. At Blue Ocean Media Group, we've spent decades crafting compelling visual stories for businesses just like yours. From concept to completion, our award-winning team transforms your vision into powerful video content that connects with your audience and drives results. Don't trust your brand to amateurs. Partner with Blue Ocean Media Group. Visit blueoceanmediagroup.com today, and let's bring your story to life.
Mike Ferguson.
I don't know how to put this, but I'm kind of a big deal.
Susie Moore.
They look very aggressive. I think they want to beat me up.
Get up, St. Louis.
So it's time to get out of bed. Pour yourself the greatest cup of Kofifi the world has ever seen. Rise up with one voice. Drain the swamp and take back our country. Today's the day we're going to do it, and it's time to do it right now, believe me.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Despite the horrific acts by this federal government, Minnesotans are standing up for the rule of law. They're protesting loudly and urgently, but peacefully. It must stay that way, Minnesota. Minnesotans are witnessing, and we're creating a log of evidence for the future prosecution of ICE agents and officials responsible for this.
Every time we air a clip, I always name them, so I know which one to go to. I just named that when Governor Tim Walz being delusional. 20 seconds.
I hear his voice, and my fists ball up because I know I'm so aggravated by the rhetoric, and I realize that there's everybody on the left right now going Donald Trump. I get it. Okay, fine. This is the leader of the state, and he's sharing provable lies.
Right. I mean, he's agitating people against federal law enforcement, and he's gaslighting there. I mean, that's just, and he's not good at it. The thing is, he's not good at it. But it's just outright gaslighting. People have been peacefully protesting. What? The people between you and Jacob Fry and Keith Ellison, you have done everything except say throw the punch or throw the bottle full of whatever.
Impeding ICE or Border Patrol operations is not protesting, peacefully or otherwise. Standing in a location off the street with your signs and your horns or whatever, that is protesting. This is not that. And they're just, just...
And here's the thing, is that doesn't preclude being skeptical about the latest shooting involving federal law enforcement.
No, it doesn't.
So I'm withholding judgment on that one for the moment. There's been a lot of narrative. As a matter of fact, I just learned something a minute or so ago that you were showing me some of that video when you zoomed out on some of that video on this. But here's the thing. Alex Preddy put himself in that situation. Alex Preddy committed crimes.
He did.
Without a doubt. That doesn't mean that the shooting was correct or justified. We don't know yet. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying is we don't know yet, and we should have the integrity to say, let's find out this one's questionable.
Yep.
Now, that doesn't mean that the federal law enforcement are the bad guys.
No.
I don't think they are. But I think that we should say, what's the actual truth?
Yes.
I know, radical thought.
Facts matter.
I don't want your facts. I want to feel what I'm feeling right now, Mike.
Basically. Yeah, I would encourage everybody to go to Bill Malusian's X account, Twitter account. Doll Malusian, of course, now he's the congressional correspondent for Fox News. He's good at what he does. He doesn't really get into his own thoughts on this. He's one of the few that does that. And I was reading some of that on the air a little bit ago. Here's a little more, because what he's arguing, or not what he's arguing, what he's reporting is that there are people in not just the Trump administration, but in federal law enforcement who are really frustrated with the messaging that's coming out of the Trump administration right now. And I've got a couple examples of that in just a second, because Kash Patel and Kristi Noem and Scott Bessent have said things that are just demonstrably false about this situation, about this case. Now, again, it doesn't mean that I am anti-federal law enforcement. I am pro-federal law enforcement, which is why we need to be accurate.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even sure if what Noam said was demonstrably false, but her characterization of Preddy's intent is it doesn't align with what appears to have happened. Patel saying you can't be armed at a protest is not accurate.
He's just wrong.
Yeah, and
or he's lying. One or the other.
Yeah, no, I think he's just speaking without thinking it through.
Yeah.
And I've seen a couple of other comments from like U.S. attorneys, that sort of thing, along the same lines. And it's like, I get it. I get why you guys are kind of, joining locking your arms together, but just be accurate about what you're representing. I mean, that doesn't change whether this was or wasn't a good shoot.
Right. And along those lines, let me pick up where I was commenting on. Here's Bill Malusian's report. And again, it's a written report. You can see it on X. Just look for Bill Malusian's his handle. And he says some of these sources, he's talking about sources inside the federal government, have described DHS's response to the shooting as, quoting, a case study on how not to do crisis PR. One said they are so fed up that they wish they could retire. Another said DHS is making the situation worse. And another added that DHS is wrong and we are losing this war. We are losing the base in the narrative. And it goes on to say, and again, I'm just reading his report, these sources all believe this is going to end up being what they call a bad shoot, a crappy, I'll insert the word crappy, situation that happened in seconds where agents likely heard gun and then the disarmed firearm may have had an accidental discharge that spooked the agents and they shot. The agents do not have the luxury of multiple slow motion angles and had to make a split-second decisions. That's crucial to remember as well.
It is.
Now, we don't know that the gun actually, that Preddy's gun actually discharged. We just don't know. That's what we have to wait to find out. If that thing discharged, okay, well, that adds a whole other level of understanding if that's what happened. We don't know that that's what happened.
I'll even go as far as to say, because, again, the shooting happened after he'd already been disarmed.
Right.
So assuming even if it did not discharge, but they saw him reaching for something else, and because there is something else that appears to be in his hand in one of the other angles.
Right.
It's just not. It's clearly not a firearm, though. It might have been a magazine, it might have been a cell phone, but I can imagine them being concerned of, he might have another gun on him, or now he's reaching for something.
Absolutely,
I can understand that, but we don't have all of the facts or the evidence to support one way or another yet.
No. And so people who are making, pronouncements about whether it was and wasn't, that sort of thing, I don't think that's helpful. I really don't. And that's the thing I hate most about social media.
Here's part of what Kash Patel had to say. He was being interviewed by Maria Bartiromo on Sunday on Fox.
But as Secretary Noem said, no one who wants to be peaceful shows up at a protest with a firearm that is loaded with 2 full magazines. That is not a peaceful protest, and you do not get to touch law enforcement. You do that anywhere, this FBI is going to be leading the charge to arrest those.
But how was he threatening Border Patrol? You've collected the evidence, you said, right? You have the handgun in your possession?
That's right.
And how was he using that handgun in terms of threatening Border Patrol? What was the threat? He had his camera, right? He was filming it.
That's something that I will let the DHS and the prosecutors, because they are the ones investigating that case. I don't want to stylize that evidence, but I trust the men and women on the ground who are trained professionals to only use it when it's absolutely necessary. And I trust Secretary Noem's leadership and DHS and HSI to do the right thing, as they've always done in these scenarios. As Christy said, you cannot bring a firearm loaded with multiple magazines to any sort of protest that you want. It's that simple. You don't have that right to break the law and incite violence.
He's just wrong about that. I mean, he's wrong, or he's just lying about that.
I don't think it's about lying. I think it's about trying to. I don't know. There's a mix in there of what he's saying. Some of it is accurate and some of it is not.
Yeah, you don't have a right to interfere or get in the middle. He's 100% right about that part. That was the only thing he was right about.
You know, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, well, from what we can tell right now, is that so Minnesota does require a permit to carry open or concealed carry, which a holstered weapon, even if it's on the outside of your hip, if you have a jacket or something that qualifies as concealed carry, and it does appear that Preddy did have his valid concealed carry under the state, the state of Minnesota's license, and he was not in an area alone on its own that would have prohibited him from having a firearm on him. Now, of course, when you start inserting yourself into the activities of federal
what
agents,
he did was incredibly stupid, and it was
reckless.
illegal, and it was wrong, and he should have been taken to the ground and arrested, without a doubt. This isn't a good guy. Alex Preddy is not the good guy here. He's just not.
At best, he's seriously misguided and acted stupidly.
Yes, without a doubt.
Yeah, I mean, I really, really wish people like Kash Patel and Kristi Noem and Scott Bessent and Greg Bovino, all of those people would take a step back.
Yeah.
Remind themselves of what the Second Amendment provides and rework this, because their narrative there is wrong.
Mm-hmm. And it's also right now in the heat of the moment, it's being used against them.
Yeah.
The people we don't like, but don't set things up to where it's going to be used against us to violate our rights. The Second Amendment right is bigger than the moment here, even though tragically another person was shot and killed because he decided to get involved and interfere with a legitimate law enforcement operation.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, there have been protests by people within the two-way community where they show up with their rifles and their firearms to make a point, and they don't get violent. They're not shooting people and attacking people. But the point of the matter is that under what Kash Patel interprets to be what's lawful to have a firearm on you, then would it be okay if those people, they send in the feds to come and get those guys?
Well, and what's the deal with the 2 magazines? Like, okay, it's okay to have a loaded firearm, but you can't have extra ammunition? I'm not aware of maybe there is a law about that.
Again, I would have to check Minnesota for that specific law, but no, it is very common, including with the gun range that I go to, that they encourage that because you don't know how many threats. There are so many videos and times out there with multiple home invaders, with gangs full of people trying to carjack you or kidnap somebody. And if you watch any amount of body cam footage from police officers, you'll know that 1, 2, 3 shots is not always going to be enough to incapacitate somebody that's in a messed up mental state or an adrenaline rush. But I think people that are not 2A people, that they don't know the laws, and I know a lot of these laws because it affects me, because I am a 2A advocate and I am a firearm owner. But I think people, the moment they start hearing a lot of rounds, they immediately go to these news stories of when psychos go on rampages.
Yeah.
They don't think about, is there a valid reason why somebody would have multiple magazines to reload and back themselves up
and
just on a day-to-day basis?
Even if there's not, doesn't matter. It's not illegal to do that. Now, is it smart to do it? Right. No. Would it have been smarter for him to come unarmed if he was going to be involved in this in some way? Probably.
Or at the very least, just not get that close to officers.
Well,
where they feel
absolutely.
That you should,
I just mean just arriving on site, just before anything even happened. But it wasn't illegal for him to do it.
No, it was not. Patel's just wrong about that. By the way, I just saw something from Newsmax. The NBA going woke again. Apparently the Timberwolves, which that's Minnesota's team, had a moment of silence to honor Alex Preddy at their game last night or yesterday.
Wow. Okay. I mean, you can mourn the loss of life.
Yeah.
You can.
You can do that.
I mean, I'm pro-life, so
yeah.
I don't know. In all seriousness, do not go out today if you don't have to. It's not about the snow. It's about the cold, and it is dangerous. We're going to bring you the update on that at 7:20. And by the way, let us know how the roads are in your area today.
Making cold mind to fight your war. Stop it right now. I have had enough of this. Turn my eyes to your
Okay, like I was just saying, it's really, 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 really cold out right now. So this might be the time where you're thinking about, hey, is our heating system, is it accurate? Is it up to date? Does it need to be updated? Well, I know who you should talk to if you're not sure about that. DL Pringer HVAC. When it comes to heating, cooling, and refrigeration, you want to trust the family that's been keeping St. Peter's comfortable since 1974. DL Pringer HVAC is small enough to care and experienced enough to deliver. You can call DL at 314-640-9617. If you think you're being charged too much for a new system, you probably are. If you have a competitor's bid, they'll beat it by 20%, guaranteed. From home HVAC to commercial refrigeration to beer caves to restaurant coolers, Pringer does it all. They're licensed, they're insured, they've got 100% customer satisfaction guaranteed. DL Pringer HVAC. Call DL at 314-640-9617 or find them on Facebook. Family owned, customer approved.
Columbo and Company.
Join us every day for conversations with a wide variety of guests as we keep you informed and up to speed on all the important news and headlines you need to know.
Live and local weekdays at 2 on NewsTalkSTL.
1949, the last time a Republican held the top post in St. Louis City. A gallon of milk was 84 cents and streetcars ran down Grand Avenue. Unfortunately, St. Louis City streets are no longer the epicenter of family and business life. In the 80 years of Democrat control, our city has been on a steady decline.
Hello, Kirk Ilsinger, chairman of the Republican Party for the city of St. Louis, and we believe it is our duty to provide a different path forward. I invite you to our meetings the first Thursday of every month. Learn more at stl-gop.com.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican PAC. Curtis Farber, Treasurer. News, analysis, opinion.
It almost seems common sense, but, alas, common sense isn't so common these days.
News Talk STL.
Hey, this is Carl Higbee, host of Frontline on Newsmax TV, and you're listening to Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
All right, the snow has stopped falling, but dangerous weather not over yet. You were asking, Susie, what are the roads like around the area on Rumble chat box? Perry DS says, what road? Can't see it.
Oh, can't see it.
There are some of those areas around. Like, for instance, I was coming in today. There's one area where there's one of those big metal plates on the road, and I like to drive around it just to not hit it. Since it's 3 o'clock in the morning, no one else is in there. Right over the metal plate is the only part of the road that was drivable. I'm like, guess I'm hitting the metal plate today.
Yep.
All right, so how are roads where you're at? Send us a note, let us know here. But it's not even about the snow. The roads will probably be fairly clear by the end of the
At least
day.
the main ones,
I would think the main ones here. But it's the cold weather. You got to take this seriously. But we also got to keep up with what's happening so we can stay in the fight the right way.
It's true.
Susie, what are the articles we should check out at Red State first?
This is the Red State Rundown.
Well, I know it's been like all Minnesota all the time of late, and I'm kind of tired of it too, but there is other stuff going on in the world, and we were covering that as well, including this very important article from our friend Strife, Bill Cruz. It's titled, China Accuses Fired General of One-Upping General Mark Milley. He gave nuclear secrets to the CIA. There was a mass defection of one of China's top generals, and no one's talking about it because everyone's talking about freaking Minnesota.
Yeah.
Go check that article out from Strife. It's important. Also, now back to Minnesota, our managing editor, Jen Van Laar, has an article up. It's titled Anti-ICE Signal Chats. Walls Administration Implicated, Foreign Funding Revealed. Yeah, over the weekend, the signal chats that were being used to coordinate these activists' actions were infiltrated and exposed. And there's
somebody took a bunch of screenshots because that's one of those that's encrypted and it's hard to get to.
Oh, yeah. No, there's some bad stuff. And this is highly coordinated stuff, and it does implicate a lot of people. So you want to check out that article from Jennifer Van
People
Laar.
speaking organically. They're rising up out of a sense of justice.
Organically, not. And then, Strife has another article relating to that. It's called The Anti-ICE Demonstrations Look More Like Mao's People's War Doctrine Than Civil Disturbances. Yeah, this is an orchestrated, organized effort, and we need to take it seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, road conditions. What did you experience coming in? So you're coming in from St. Peter's. Highway was okay?
Highway was okay. There was 2 lanes that were cleared. There was blowing snow across it, but the lanes themselves were pretty clear. I was a little hesitant to go above 60, and some people were flying by me, and I thought that was a little weird. Yeah. The side roads like Cave Springs and the outer road were pretty well snow-packed with a little bit of clearing, so you just have to, kind of be careful. You definitely don't want to be slamming on your brakes anywhere.
Yeah, yesterday I was going around trying to break up some of the snow that didn't get touched very well by the plows, and had to help a couple people actually get unstuck from the snow. But in this area, it wasn't as bad as it was yesterday. I don't know if maybe they did another pass or if it just kind of compressed finally. Not too bad. I only slid a little bit, which I have 4-wheel drive, so I'm not too concerned. I mean, I'm also from Chicago, so I know how to I know how to get my way out of that. But it was overall, it wasn't as bad as I was expecting, but you still need to keep slow because you can slide without notice.
Yeah, I mean, around here at the radio station, like, for instance, Dorset looked like it was in pretty decent shape.
It's definitely passable.
Yeah. It looks like the highways, they have hit the highways. MoDOT was out. We talked about, they were out 2 days before, because they got their butt whooped in the court of public opinion after the last, relatively small snowfall that came into the area, but still, this was a lot of snow. But it's been what, 18 hours, 19 hours since it stopped, so they've had time to do run after run after run. If there are still any problems tomorrow, we can start asking questions. But it looks like they're on pace to get stuff cleared out.
It does, and shout out also to the weather guys and gals because they did get this forecast pretty much on the nose.
Yeah, they really did. I mean, the only thing that maybe they didn't get right was a pleasant surprise because they said snow was going to keep falling till about 6. Looks like it stopped around 2. I'm like, great.
Yeah, it was sunny yesterday afternoon.
I'm like, good. But the amount of snow, the type of snow, they were pretty much, they wrote the script.
And I don't know that they're listening, but shout out to my upstairs neighbors who shoveled off a big pathway for the dogs and swept off the balcony areas and stuff in our complex. Appreciate that.
I would like to complain against my neighbors because I wanted to go and try to break up some of our snow banks to provide more parking spots, and then people were leaving and coming and not aligning properly to allow, so that they were getting themselves stuck in the snow. And I'm like, I can't.
There's only so much you can do.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's only so much you can do.
Thankful to have a garage.
Yeah, so basically be patient. But the real story here is the cold.
Yeah,
I mean, very, very serious cold. We do not get this very often. I mean, it's like, hey, it's January. It's St. Louis. Of course it's going to be cold. There's cold, and then there's this. They're calling this Arctic, and that's not being funny. Our friends at KMOV, we're talking about the weather forecasters, they're saying that basically below 0 for an actual temperature, but with the wind chill, we're looking at between 15 and minus 15 and minus 25. Minus 15 and minus 25. So if you don't have to, if work says don't worry about it, your kid's school got canceled, you don't need to go to the store, just relax. Don't do it. If you got cabin fever, at least wait till later in the day when the roads are clear.
If you're not at the point of eating cat food, just hang on for another day or 2.
Well, which cat food? Some of it's not bad.
Okay.
Okay. But here, how about this? Ameren is asking everybody to do the energy conservation thing. Okay. Yeah. It's like, I get where you're coming from. Hope some people listen to you, but I want to stay warm.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to find the sweet spot there. I confess to this. I do keep my thermostat set at 74. Now, in my defense, I have 2 large windows that are not insulated. So if I don't keep it up pretty high, then it starts getting very cold in there very fast. So that's my comfort level. Can I notch it down to like 72? Yeah, probably.
I'm actually doing my part because I don't mind a cold. I like the cold, just not the bitter bone freezing cold. So my thermostat is probably, I think I've set it to like 64, 65 just to prevent any sort of pipe freezing. But I have not. I mean, I'm actually more mad that I have to have my heater on at all right now for the sake of my neighbors than I am about how cold it might be in my apartment.
Yeah, I generally keep mine around 70.
Yeah,
year
and I
round.
think that's normal. I know mine is higher than what some people, particularly middle-aged women, normally would do. And my daughter even comes and she's like, "Mom, it's so hot."
Yeah.
I get it. I do get it. I'm sitting there like motionless at my computer for like hours on end, and it's drafty in there. So I like to be comfortable, and I can layer up, but
Yeah,
I'm not
that's
gonna be
what
like making myself miserable.
See, and that's what Ameren is saying. They're basically saying lower the thermostat and then just put on another layer of clothes in your house. And I'm like, well, okay, but I'm at home. I would like to just be comfortable in my home.
I respect that they're suggesting it and trying to do it nicely, and some people will be happy to do so, and others are going to be like, I'm holding on to my hot house.
And here's the thing: is that this is a precautionary measure. They're just saying we're good right now. Let's just keep it good.
You definitely don't want to stress out the grid. I agree with that.
Yeah. So, but anyway, if you're among those who say I'm going to do my part and you're going to lower your bill a little bit too, you can do that. That's not a big deal. Okay, so road conditions. I think we got through.
I have a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I saw this hack a couple different places on Facebook over the weekend about like what you can do for radiant heat if your power goes out.
Right.
2 candles in between them, and like a crock pot liner over the top of them. So basically the candles are putting heat up into the crock pot liner, and then it's emanating out from that. And
especially if it's ceramic.
Yes, people are swearing by that.
Yeah.
So somebody else raised the question, A, what does it do to the stuff in the cans? And B, does it potentially create a carbon monoxide issue?
I wouldn't think a candle would create a carbon
I wouldn't
monoxide
think so,
issue.
but if it's like concentrated, would that,
but if it's a ceramic ceramic one, because what happens is the heat builds up in the ceramic pot, and then the ceramic pot emanates heat even a little bit after the candle goes out.
Yeah, I mean, I saw people swearing by it, and I'm like, well, that's actually pretty smart. I just would wonder about like, the beans in the cans next to it that are holding it up.
Yeah, I can't imagine, unless you are like your face is right next to it and you're breathing in deeply, that you would have any sort of issues with carbon monoxide or anything like that.
That's what I thought too. Someone just raised that to me, and I was like, well, okay, that's good. I don't want to be a dummy like sharing that idea with people and then have people going, oh, I don't want to be responsible for that. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, but a few days, I mean, I was reading up on Channel 4's stuff this morning, and basically it's going to be ugly cold for the next, frankly, rest of the week is what we're looking at. And then possibly a warm up, right after February 1st or so. And so, get used to it. But for today, just dangerous, stupid cold weather. And that's what we have to be aware of.
Yeah. You got to be careful.
Coming up, can government make housing affordable again, or should government get out of the way? We'll talk to you. We'll talk to Congressman Eric Burlison about that about the latest.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
The cross between Socrates and Dirty Harry.
On Newstalk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Layer up, my friends. It is brutally cold out there this morning. An extreme cold warning in effect until noon. After starting the day with wind chills between 15 and 25 degrees below zero. My forecast high today is only 15. Top wind chills around 3 this afternoon, and that's with the sunshine. Not as cold tonight. Still frigid, though. Down to 10 for the low early Tuesday morning. Mostly sunny and warmer tomorrow afternoon, but minimal melting with a high at 29. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
The Vic Porcelli Show.
It is an honor and a privilege to have U.S. Senator Eric Schmidt.
Hey, I have to tell you, I don't know if I've ever told you this. In the 90s, what would this have been? Mid-90s.
Yeah.
And I was like, I worked at Grant's Farm, and I had a couple other jobs. In the afternoon, I would often hear and listen to Porcelli's Deli on the radio.
Thank you so much. Thank you for listening. Thank you for making me feel older than I already feel. That's just great.
Vic Porcelli, live and local, weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL. Larry Connor's Commentary, brought to you by Vincent's Jewelers, offering a wide selection of jewelry, including lab-grown diamonds, affordable earrings, bracelets, necklaces, and rings, up to 75% off their natural counterparts. Visit vincentsjewelers.com. This is Larry Connor's Commentary on News Talk STL.
I grew up in West Texas, never saw a snowstorm, but I've lived through several sandstorms. Now, the difference between a snowstorm and a sandstorm, if you don't know, let's just forget it. I will say this. In my 20s, I lived in the Texas Panhandle, and it could get cold, very cold. In fact, it's often said there's nothing between the North Pole and the Texas Panhandle but barbed wire. Maybe I need to clean up the Texas accent. There's nothing between the North Pole and the Texas Panhandle but barbed wire. I don't know how cold it got in Amarillo this last weekend, but I do know if you're a Texan, they're going to say, much colder than what you had in your area. That's the way Texans are, always bragging how to have the biggest of the biggest, the smallest of the smallest, the coldest of the cold, the hottest of the, well, you got the idea. And I'm not even going to ask you if you enjoyed this miserable, stinking cold. Not going to ask, because that would be like asking President Lincoln, how did you enjoy the play?
Get more Larry Connors on Larry Connors USA.
Tonight at 6 on News Talk STL.
Previously, I've told you about dustless blasting, a special service offered by Wellington Environmental. It could work for you in your place. Recently, a crew removed a driveway sealer that had failed. The owner wanted to go back to the original concrete so it could be properly sealed. Dustless blasting worked. That homeowner is happy. Now, sometimes surfaces need pressure washing instead of blasting. In fact, there was an exterior stone fireplace cleansed by pressure washing, and when it dried, all the dark stain was gone. That stone had its original appearance. Wellington is versatile with blasting. Dustless blasting, or whatever you need. They will evaluate and make a decision. How do you get them to your door? Very easy. Call 314-644-4930. 644-4930. Wellington Environmental, making your world great. In fact, be safe, be well with Wellington Environmental.
Hey everybody, Senator Eric Schmidt here, inviting you to the statewide Lincoln Day celebration, February 20th through the 22nd. It's going to be a great weekend with fellow patriots. We'll talk about how we're going to continue to save this country, deliver on President Trump's agenda, and also celebrate America 250. So join us there. It'll be a lot of fun.
Learn more about the 2026 Lincoln Days and get tickets at Missouri.gop. That's Missouri.gop. Paid for by the Missouri Republican Party. Jennifer Finch, Treasurer.
Here's my problem.
Completely agree with your sentiments.
He talks about we're divided. Well, yeah, we are. And we need to wake up as a country and realize what's going on.
1019 and 94.1.
Number one for conservative talk.
News Talk STL. Mike Ferguson in the morning. Watch us on our live stream using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, 99.1 HD3 and NewsTalkSTL.com.
All right, Republicans in the House passed the spending bill in hopes of avoiding another shutdown. We talked about that last week. Now it's going to be up to the Senate to make a decision. So the bottom line is going to be what's next, because we're not done with the argument over the spending bill and the potential for a shutdown. It is shutdown season after all.
It is always.
We get that. We get that a few times a year, but the House done the initial part. There are some skeptics about parts of it, though. It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination.
Anyone who's claiming it is not being accurate.
Right. Now we're joined by Congressman Eric Burlison, obviously from Missouri here. Eric, good chat with you again. I want to get to the spending bill aspect in just a moment, but obviously what's on everybody's mind right now is this fact that there was another shooting, this one involving Border Patrol in Minneapolis. We've got the leftists, including the governor, agitating, anti-law enforcement stuff again, elected officials stirring things up. But this situation, a little more messy, not as clear-cut as some of the other ones. What was your reaction when you saw what happened and read what happened and you're seeing the fallout from it?
Yeah, I think my overall view of this is that people need to take a step back. This is not like watching Sunday football and seeing a replay and trying to make a fair call. First and foremost, when you're law enforcement and you are in a potentially lethal situation, you're putting your life on the line. That is not the same playing field. The other thing is that an individual going into a protest does not have the right to create any kind of physical altercation, initiate any kind of attack against local law enforcement or any law enforcement, federal or local. And I don't know since when did we forget that this is just a basic rule that we should all follow. You do not attack law enforcement, and to think that in some way that this is like two players playing on the field, and we all get to watch it. That's not what's happening here, folks. So on the other side of this, you've got some of the people on the right who are saying stupid things about Second Amendment rights and saying, well, he brought a firearm to a protest. You have a right to bring a firearm to a protest. You don't have a right, whether you're armed or unarmed, to attack law enforcement. And so I think that we just need to take a step back and just call out what's the facts here, what's the truth, and look, they're gonna investigate this and let the investigators do the play-by-play and figure out, was there any at fault there? But that's not for us to be armchair quarterbacking, watching and determining this off the internet.
Good morning, Eric. This is Susie Moore. Follow-up question on that, because you're talking about investigations. And yes, this investigation needs to be playing out, but there's so many layers here, particularly with regard to Minnesota and Minneapolis, of investigation that needs to go on. We've got the fraud situation. Now we've got, coming to light this sort of orchestrated counterinsurgency, if you will, from the activists.
That's right.
That's much more organized, I think, than people realize. This isn't just people showing up to protest and then getting sideways with officers. This is people coordinating at a level that's kind of paramilitary. So I know that there's, upcoming hearings scheduled, I think, with regard to Border Patrol and ICE. But with regard to the fraud situation and the local officials and state officials and these activists that are perhaps coordinating in nefarious ways, do you see there being congressional investigations into that as well?
That could happen. The fact that you've got, to your point, all of these people who are doing a counterinsurgency effort that are well organized. They're on signal chats. It's been well documented that on Twitter that people have taken screenshots and of the comments and the strategies that are going on behind the scenes in these large groups that are very well coordinated. And it's been reported that the Lieutenant Governor, Peggy Flanagan of Minnesota, is one of the administrators of one of these signal chats. And for the folks that don't know what Signal is, it's a secure, encrypted app that keeps you anonymous and often deletes your messages within a short period of time automatically, so that there's not a trace. So these are people who are hiding in the dark, planning these attacks, trying to coordinate to basically commit violent acts against our ICE agents that are out in the field.
Yeah, Eric, if the lieutenant governor were actually proven to be involved, and this is something that was specifically advocating for any kind of physical conduct or physical interference, I would think that she could possibly, even though she's lieutenant governor, be liable to be prosecuted for federal crimes if that could be proven.
Yeah, if she could be connected to any kind of physical attacks, I think you're right. She was part of this group and part of coordinating it. And not only was she in the Signal chat, but she's apparently an admin in the chat. So that is, if it's true, it's pretty disturbing.
Yeah, I don't know if it's been verified yet, but there's some pretty strong evidence for it, and certainly it needs to be looked at. And then there's also the issue about, we've kind of forgotten about the whole church invasion last week and the prosecutions there. And obviously there's a role that the federal judiciary is playing in some instances, basically running interference for the left and the agitators. Do you see there being some additional discussions in Congress about maybe reining in some of the authority that the Article 3 courts are wielding right now?
I wish that were the case. We just tried to have an amendment done, and it was Chip Roy's amendment to kind of rein in Boasberg. And it wasn't even to fire Boasberg. It was to pull back on the resources that he has as a judge. And unfortunately, we couldn't get all of the Republicans on board with voting for that. So I think that's disturbing. What I think is a disturbing trend right now is that you're seeing Republicans run for the fences, right? So you're seeing them go on social media, go on some of the talk shows, and call for an investigation, for example, of these ICE agents that with the recent shooting. They're trying they're going into retreat mode because they're all afraid of going into the midterms. But the truth is, doing that, running away from the roar, is the wrong thing to do. You run to the roar, and what I mean is that when you at the end of the day, the American people are just going to see you for what you are, which is a coward who just wants to keep your job. You need to go in. You need to confront what's happening and expose the truth.
We're visiting with Congressman Eric Burlison. A couple other things are happening. I mentioned just a minute ago the spending bill, or a version of the spending bill, passes the House. Now it's in the Senate. Not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. There's been some criticism as far as, spending on, refugee programs and things like that. What do you make of the spending bill? Obviously, it's in the hands of the Senate, but this may end up coming back if they change anything to you. Since we're in shutdown season now again, what are the chances that we have a good spending plan that keeps things kind of even keel for a while?
Well, the bill that we passed, to your point, had a lot of warts in it. And it had a lot of warts because the Democrats in the Senate and the Republicans in the Senate and what they call the four corners, they all agreed on this package, what we call a mini bus and a mini omnibus. And it included a bunch of earmarks, dozens and dozens of earmarks for Democrats, mainly Democratic senators, to get their votes, basically. And a lot of these are pretty disgusting earmarks there were like 24 of them that went towards funding gender affirming care clinics or late-term abortion clinics. That's something I couldn't support, but it did pass, and the Republicans passed it thinking that they get their stuff, the Democrats get a little bit of their stuff, and then they should pass it. Well, now they've changed their mind because of what's happening in Minnesota. They feel like they cannot vote for Homeland Security, period. And because this package includes Homeland, they want to strip it out or they're going to shut the government down. Well, again, this is a moment where you don't then back off and then try to give them more things and give ground to the Democrats. You run to the roar, right? You run into the conflict. We should be demanding that they return the filibuster in the Senate to the way the filibuster works in Missouri and the way that the filibuster used to work in Washington, D.C., where these, jackwagons have to actually stand on the floor and talk. Chuck Schumer should actually have to stand there, like Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. You remember that movie?
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy Stewart stood there and, until his last breath. This is the way it works in the Missouri Senate. You can filibuster, but you got to actually do it. These octogenarians in the Senate, it's basically become a nursing home because they don't physically have to lift a finger to do anything. And so they need to return to that rule. Make Chuck Schumer, make Dick Durbin, all these people that are over 80 years old have to go out there and actually physically do their job. Then you'll see that they're not going to fight that long. The other thing that we could be doing is doing Reconciliation 2.0. Tell the Democrats, fine, we're going to take out all of your earmarks and we're going to pass this under simple reconciliation. That's the kind of thing that Republicans should be doing and would probably, inspire the base. And hopefully some of my colleagues will see that as a direction to go.
Eric, you kind of anticipated my next question, and that was, do you see Leader Thune, Senate leadership, being willing to perhaps go to the mat on this and maybe even get rid of the filibuster for appropriations purposes?
I don't know. I do not know. Thune did come out with a response to Chuck Schumer saying that they're going to proceed forward, and if the Democrats want to shut down the government, then that's on them. Hopefully, Thune they did a good job of standing up to the Democrats the first shutdown.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully they repeat that.
All right, Congressman Eric Burlison, really appreciate the update. I wish we had time to get into the whole housing affordability thing, but we just got so much ground to cover right now. A lot of people are just feeling like we're surrounded by chaos, but, it's important to remember rough patches are still rough patches. We are going to come out of it, at the end of it. Things may not look the same, but, the world isn't ending, but it is rough right now.
It is. It's murky, but just try to look for truth whenever things get rough.
Always good advice. Point. Eric, great to chat with you again, my friend. Thanks so much.
Anytime.
Thanks, Eric. All right. We've got another happy animal story coming up, and tell me something good. Something that had to do with kind of the cold weather and how people had to react to it. But we're going to find out about that coming up next at 7:50.
One in 4 women will have an abortion before the age of 45 in this country. That's the tragedy we must work to stop. Mike Ferguson from The Morning Show here, and that is why Reach Reproductive Health is here, to empower parents to save the lives of innocent children and to see these families come to Christ. And you can be a part of saving and changing lives. So pray and visit outreachforlife.org to learn more, volunteer, and donate. That's outreachforlife.org.
If you're worried about losing your health insurance through Medicaid, we have great news for you. New government regulations have expanded the Affordable Care Act. And now you may qualify to get health insurance for you and your family through the Affordable Care Act. Call now to learn if you qualify. We know the healthcare regulations regarding Medicaid, and we've helped thousands of people find quality, affordable health insurance. Plus, all our research is free to you. So call us. With just one call, we'll shop from hundreds of different insurance companies to find you the right affordable health insurance plan. So if you're worried about losing your Medicaid insurance, call right now. Speak with a licensed agent and find how you may qualify for a new health insurance plan.
800-479-0931. 800-479-0931. 800-479-0931. That's 800-479-0931. Paid for by the Health Insurance Hotline.
Larry Connors here. I begin my morning every day with the Mike Ferguson Morning Show while I'm doing my 10-mile run. Catch my program at 6. Now, back to Mike.
All right, if there ever were a day that we needed you to tell me something good, Susie, that would be today. Please, Susie, tell me something good.
Good news, everyone.
Tell me something good.
Amen. Okay, the first one is a happy horse story. Like I teased a little bit ago, with the Missouri Emergency Response Services, MERS, Large Animal Rescue, had a rescue to do on Saturday when it was really cold and starting to snow. They got a call that morning about a 26-year-old Clydesdale down in a stall in Florissant. A team of 10 members arrived on location, began assessing the situation, unloading the necessary equipment. They helped apply a head protector and all kinds of equipment to make sure that they could get this horse out of the stall safely. They had to put it on a glide to get it out of there. They finally got, and she was very active. Her name is Belle. So she was very restless, so they had to have a veterinarian tranquilize her. And they finally were able to get her out of the stall. They got her, they used like a tractor and a hoist, and they got her stood up. And then they were able to eventually get her walking and making sure that she could stand on her own, that she could stand without assistance, that she was walked to make sure she was fully stable. And after all of that, this was like a multiple hour operation. The team packed up all their equipment, they debriefed, began the snowy drive home. I think they were there for like 8 or 9 hours.
Yeah, Clydesdale's not exactly little tiny critters.
Yeah.
No,
so
these are massive animals.
Big thank you to those who braved the 4-degree temperatures and slick roadways to help this horse. Belle is doing fine from what we know.
Good.
Tell me something good.
All right. So this is a Colorado choir of adults with Down syndrome who were part of the March for Life on Friday. The 53rd Annual March for Life was held in Washington, D.C. on Friday with thousands in attendance as the national anthem rang out across the National Mall. A choir from Friends of Club 21 stood before thousands of marchers and offered a witness that went beyond music. Made up of individuals with Down syndrome ranging in age from 13 to 42, the choir's performance drew cheers from the crowd and set the tone for a day dedicated to the dignity of every human life. The choir performed a piece they had spent weeks preparing, their voices rising confidently before a crowd gathered to advocate for the unborn. For the performers, the moment marked both a celebration of their hard work and a powerful opportunity to be seen and heard. The club was founded by Tim Middlebrook after a trip to South Africa in 2014. While there, he met Zell Ellis and learned about how she started Club 21, a school for children with Down syndrome. Club 21 received no public funding or government support. He, with the support of his wife, Michelle, and their 4 children, started Friends of Club 21 to come alongside this special school and see their vision grow. I'm going to skip ahead on this so we don't get too mired down in it. But Jean Chacon, whose daughter Nicole was a member of the choir, said she had tears in her eyes watching the group at its sound check before their performance. They're such a beautiful gift from God, she said. Each of them is so special and gives so much of themselves and has such a strong appreciation for life.
Yeah, that's powerful.
It is.
Tell me something good.
Last but not least, this 90-year-old had a crock sitting on her porch for 40 years that she thought would maybe get her $100, and it fetched $32,000 at auction.
Wow.
Lois, like many elderly folks in the Midwest whose families use stoneware crocks for sauerkraut, Lois Juergens held on to one for 40 years. It sat on her porch, weathering decades of harsh Nebraska winters until early this month when she was planning a yard sale. She asked this guy, Ken Bramer, to help her with it, thinking it might fetch her $100. Little known to her, this was a very rare 30-gallon Red Wing crock, and it did. It fetched $32,000, and they surprised her with that information on her 91st birthday.
Wow, nice.
How
she
about
could finally
that?
afford to retire.
Exactly. Exactly. All right, let's go to the national.
Let's do it. Yep.
Tell me something good.
All right, it's Monday. It's Green Juice Day.
Green Juice Day.
I know.
I don't like that.
I don't know. It's also Peanut Brittle Day. And it's Bubble Wrap Day. So pop the bubbles.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that's fun.
Yeah.
Tuesday is planned for Vacation Day. Oh,
I've
perfect
already-
for Mike.
Technically, it's not vacation, but it's kind of vacation.
Whatever.
I'm playing baseball.
It's Vietnam Peace Day, and it's Holocaust Remembrance Day. So
Oh,
both historical
yeah.
days of significance.
So that's tomorrow, you said,
That's
right?
tomorrow.
Yeah, remember, we have a very, very well done Holocaust museum right
We
here in
do.
St. Louis. You should check out.
Absolutely. It's also Chocolate Cake Day. So
I can't
you
complain
treat
about
yourself
that.
to some dessert after
Yeah.
that. Wednesday is Library Shelfie Day. Now, I think that's when you take a picture of yourself at the library, like with the bookshelves, and kind of emphasize the importance of reading in libraries. I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
It's Data Privacy Day, or Data Privacy Day. It's Blueberry Pancake Day, and it's Kazoo Day.
Okay. I've had this debate. I just like plain old pancakes. I'm not an anti-blueberry pancake, but just give me a regular pancake and I'm good.
You know, I'm good with regular, but I don't mind having fruit on top either.
On top's a different thing.
Yeah.
I just, you know.
Chocolate chips, way to go.
Yeah. I don't like chocolate chips in my pancakes. I don't know.
By the way, you've got one more.
I know.
Addition.
I know. Thursday, Puzzle Day, Corn Chip Day. Okay, fun.
Okay, yeah.
Friday, Fun at Work Day, Big Wig Day.
Big wig day?
Yeah, I don't know. And it's Croissant Day as well.
Well, I do likes me a good croissant.
You know, you cannot go wrong with that.
And the thing is, when you say croissant, you have to
Croissant.
like try to
Croissant.
be classier
Croissant.
and more European when you say it.
Croissant.
Right.
Croissant.
because they do it weird over there. Just saying.
It's French.
Now, I will say this Flashback Friday, we will be having fun at work, hopefully. So, I mean, we're already ahead of the curve on that one, at least.
Right, exactly. Well, and the plan your vacation
Right in
day.
your sweet
So
spot.
right, because here's what's happening is I got invited to play on a baseball team that basically a guy's putting together a team to represent Missouri in one of the old man leagues.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm actually leaving on Wednesday to compete in the Caribbean Winter Championships in Puerto Rico. I've been asked to be on the team, and so we're going to play at least 5 baseball games. If we play well enough, maybe a 6th. But I'm going to be in Puerto Rico playing baseball this week. Just saying that that's what all the teasing has been around. So whenever I'm like really, really frustrated with how cold it is, I keep looking up the weather forecast for San Juan. I'm going to go from -5 to 82 over the course of about 6 or 7 hours when I get down there.
Don't want to hear about it.
So I'm doing the show, obviously, on Wednesday, and then a couple hours after that, I'm heading to the airport, and hopefully everything's on time, and I'm flying out, and then I'm playing baseball starting Thursday morning with a team from Missouri. But I'll send pictures and videos.
Hey, folks, Jamie Allman here for Newstedter's Fine Jewelry right there at Doherty Ferry and Big Bend. WowDiamonds.com. It's Wow Diamonds for a reason. These are beautiful lab-grown diamonds. They are gorgeous. They will blind you when you walk in and see them, but that's a good thing. Great engagement sets, wedding sets, all these beautiful God-created gems, sapphires, rubies, you name it, garnets, and also all the gold you need, and the famous bull of a watch, WowDiamonds.com.
Hey, Columbo here for Rockwood Charcoal. Rockwood is made from 100% pure Missouri oak and hickory, so you're cooking with the best and supporting local industry and a local business all at once. There's over 100 area Rockwood retailers. Find yours at rockwoodcharcoal.com.
If you turned 65 recently like me, it's important you find a Medicare Advantage plan that gives you the coverage you're looking for. But finding one can be difficult. The best thing I did, and I suggest you do the same, is call a licensed insurance agent and let them walk you through your Medicare Advantage plan options. There are so many benefits you have access to, so make the call now and let the representatives explain everything to you. Our licensed insurance agents can offer you a variety of Medicare Advantage plans. Plus, the call is free, the information is free, and there's no obligation to enroll. We're here to make it easy for you to select a Medicare Advantage plan that may work for your needs. Finding a Medicare Advantage plan can be easy if you do what I did. Make a quick call right now to learn more. Thank you.
800-439-7851. 800-439-7851. 800-439-7851. That's 800-439-7851.
No big old corporate lib AM station telling us what to say here. Conservative talk for St. Louis. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com. KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. I'm Rich Thomason. Some parts of the Northeast are taking a final blow from the powerful winter storm that dumped snow, sleet, and ice across a vast area from the Southwest to New England over the weekend. The colossal storm halted air and road traffic in many areas and sent temperatures plunging.
Much of the storm now has moved off the East Coast, luckily. There is still some lingering snowfall across the Northeast, but it's not really, doesn't look like it's going to amount to a whole lot besides maybe a few inches in places, particularly across like Maine and eastern Massachusetts.
Allison Santorelli at the National Weather Service says dangerously cold temperatures will be around for a while. Parts of the South, including Nashville and vicinity, are dealing with severe icing, bringing down trees and power lines. Hundreds of thousands are without power, and thousands of flights have been canceled or delayed. With Democrat senators vowing to oppose funding for the Department of Homeland Security, a government shutdown looking increasingly likely at week's end.
6 of the 12 annual spending bills for the current budget year have been signed into law. 6 more await Senate action. If senators fail to act by midnight Friday, funding for agencies covered under those remaining 6 bills will lapse, triggering a partial government shutdown. Last year, Democrats pushed the federal government into a historic shutdown over Obamacare subsidies. After a record-setting 43 days, they finally agreed to a deal that reopened the government and postponed the subsidy fight. Ken Lorman reporting.
Anti-ICE agitators are ramping up their protests in Minneapolis following the fatal shooting of an armed man by an ICE agent. On Wall Street this morning, the Dow futures are down 8 points. NASDAQ futures off 68 out of this morning's opening bell. More on these stories at townhall.com.
This is Dennis Prager for AmFed Coin and Bullion. There's something about the feel of a gold coin in your hand and the way the light reflects off its intricate details that has always captivated me. Nick Grovich, AmFed's owner, turned that same passion into his livelihood. Nick began collecting coins as a teen, and that interest grew into a nationally respected business offering only the finest quality coins at the most competitive prices. But the truth is that although Nick is a rare coin dealer, he doesn't believe in rare coins. Rare coins do not make sound investments, but they do make dealers a lot of money. See, that's part of what I respect about him. AmFed specializes in buying non-performing numismatic coins and turning them into gold or silver investments that provide liquidity and perform competitively against the market. Whether you're buying or selling, call 800-221-7694. That's 800-221-7694. AmericanFederal.com.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Layer up, my friends. It is brutally cold out there this morning, and extreme cold warning in effect until noon. After starting the day with wind chills between 15 and 25 degrees below zero. My forecast high today is only 15. Top wind chills around 3 this afternoon, and that's with the sunshine. Not as cold tonight. Still frigid, though. Down to 10 for the low early Tuesday morning. Mostly sunny and warmer tomorrow afternoon, but minimal melting with a high at 29. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Do you own a timeshare? Well, face the facts. You made a mistake. You made a bad purchase. A timeshare is not an investment. It's a money pit that continues forever. If you use your timeshare, that's great. But if you don't and you want to legally get out of your contract, call my friends right now at the Timeshare Exit Hotline. They're an experienced team of lawyers who help good people like you get out of a timeshare contract that they just don't want. Don't throw away your money on maintenance fees. Use it for things you really want. We can help you end your timeshare contract and stop the money drain immediately. If you're ready to move on with your timeshare, call our team right now.
Cancel your timeshare now with this free call. 800-524-1641. 800-524-1641. 800-524-1641. That's 800-524-1641.
Mike Ferguson.
Big guy, one of the biggest in the world.
Susie Moore.
Do you think he's ready?
He's not ready.
Get up, can't you hear the alarm?
Get up, St. Louis.
I have a feeling that by the end of this evening, I'm going to be blamed for everything.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
All right, cold weather or not, the Missouri legislature going to be back at work later this week. But that's only part of the story. Something that the legislature passed last year gets struck down by the Supreme Court, and that's got, let's just say that's got a lot of people not super happy about this. All right, I'm Mike Ferguson, got producer Jerome here, now joined by State Senator David Gregory. And David, I don't know, what your take is on this, but the Missouri Supreme Court strikes down the law that you all passed last year regarding ballot titles and the authority of the Secretary of State and the elections, particularly when it comes to referendum type issues. Senate Leader Cindy O'Loughlin not real happy with this. I read the article on this. Now, granted, it was in the Missouri Independent. Follow them on Blue Sky. So it's really confusing. Can we boil down basically what was struck down and what the reaction should be to it?
Yeah. So thanks for having me. I haven't had the chance to study the opinion, but I can tell you I've done an extensive amount of research on single subject. And to be fair, It is. It is in our Constitution, and it is a very real provision, and it is something that should be followed for good reason. Now, with that said, where is that line, right? We want our Constitution was written in a way that we don't have these unbelievable, crazy omnibus bills with all kinds of different things flying on at the very end for no real reason, but to squeeze through bad laws, right? That's the easiest way to explain it. And so, I do appreciate the single subject clause. I do appreciate its purpose. It actually is a very good thing. And the question just becomes, where is that line, right? If I have a bill for public safety, which I've had, why can't I add other public safety type of bills to it? And of course, the answer is you can. But at what point are these other bills being added to it that are not germane? They're not related to the underlying tone or underlying subject of that bill? And that's the question.
So what would you think would be the right reaction from the legislature? Is this something you bring back and just try to pass in a different way when it comes to, managing an authority on the referendums and what goes on the ballot?
Yeah, I mean, the Supreme Court very much has their delegated duties, and we appreciate it and we respect it. We don't always agree with it, let me be clear, but we will respect it, and that is what makes both this state and our country an outstanding country. And so, I don't like it. I will study it to see if I fully don't agree with it. I don't know yet, but yeah, we're going to come back. We're going to respond, and we're going to respond in a way that's going to pass what we know is the will of the voters.
All right, we're visiting with State Senator David Gregory. Let me ask you about, because last time you made some waves around the country, frankly, with your proposal regarding illegal immigrants in the state of Missouri and law enforcement and how to deal with that. But look at what's happening in, for instance, Minneapolis right now. Around the state, as far as I know, the only cities that are trying to push back against federal law enforcement is going to be Kansas City and Jackson County. Are there any concerns in the state right now that we could become one of those areas that has somebody who bars cooperation with federal law enforcement when they're trying to enforce federal immigration laws in the state? Because we know there's a presence either in the state now or coming to the state from Border Patrol and ICE and agencies like that.
Yeah, I haven't heard any specifics. Certainly since the state took control of the city police, that is no longer, not even one bit, a concern. I hope that I'm right in that prediction. Of course, I don't hear a whole lot. You might see a little bit of pushback from small municipalities, but again, not overly concerning. So we're blessed. We have a great state. We have a Republican-dominated legislature. And while I do certainly wish with our Republican-conservative domination we did even better, I am thankful for where we're at. I don't see too much of a concern of cooperation.
Okay, so let's talk about some of the big issues right now. The legislature that leadership and the governor have pointed out. Tax reform is job number one, according to a whole lot of people. What's your sense of first couple weeks in the legislative session about how serious the lawmakers are in delivering some kind of tax reform, and what should that look like? I mean, to you, what would the right reform package be? What should change?
Oh, yeah. I would say get ready. It's happening. It has a ton of steam, a ton of support from both chambers, certainly from the governor. It's a top priority for a lot of us. I've never seen that before. We've always heard folks and true conservatives wanting to get rid of the income tax, but it's been very difficult to figure out how. And of course, you need a lot of cooperation from multiple different chambers, leadership, and the executives. And we have that now. We have it. We have all of it. It's going to happen. It could happen this year. If not, I see it happening in the next 2 years. We're going to phase out the income tax, which is a great thing. Obviously, we can't do it cold turkey. You've got to somehow maintain a balanced budget. So we can't just come in and whack it completely and immediately. That wouldn't be responsible. But we are going to move towards a phase out. And the question becomes, how do you make up for some of those revenues, right? Folks keep saying, how do you make up for all of it? Well, I don't think we have to. I think we've got a lot of waste. I think we've got a lot of abuse. I think there are ways that we can push that we don't have to make up for every single dollar of it. But the true question becomes, how do you do that? And there's a lot of talk about different types of sales taxes that make sense and things like that.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because part of what, we've heard from some of your colleagues in the Senate, we talked to the governor on the opening day of the legislative session, and he's talking about hundreds of millions of dollars in cuts. And there's obviously the financial aspect of it. But as some of your colleagues, Nick Schroer in particular, have pointed out, budget cuts are also ways to restrain the government in and of itself. It's not always just about the dollars. So what would be like the most responsible way to cut that spending so that we can get the tax relief, which obviously makes the state more competitive, but at the same time also puts additional sort of reins on the government itself?
Oh yeah, I mean there's a multitude of ways to do it, and when it comes to those types of strategic cuts, you have to be exactly that. You've got to be strategic, but we're seeing bureaucrats just become a runaway train with regulations. They go in, they promulgate additional rules, they promulgate additional regulations, and they make it hard to do business. They make it hard to do and be what we want to be here in Missouri, and that's the strategic way you cut. Is a certain way to do it. And so, yes, it is. It's not just about the money. It's about what kind of policy effect we want to have through those cuts. But, I mean, look, here's the deal. I did that Department of Revenue audit myself. I was an auditor before I finished law school, and I took those skills and I audited the Department of Revenue, and we had over 40% of potential waste, the whole budget, almost a little over 40. It's like 43% potential waste. 43%. I mean, think about that. Think about that. At 43% of a $50 billion budget, that's billions and billions of dollars being wasted. We can do this. We can phase out the income tax. We can do it fairly quickly. We can do it without significantly raising other types of taxes, and we're going to.
Okay, so I mean that kind of waste there. I mean, let's assume what you found is kind of similar across the board. I mean, maybe not 40%, but is that a matter of like malicious, like what we're seeing in Minnesota, or is this just government just gets out of control over time and becomes inefficient because that's what government does?
You know, the vast majority of it was inefficient. I will be honest. From what I found, it was not as much abuse as it was incompetence, inefficiency, just a complete lack of incentive. I mean, if for those of us that have our own businesses and write paychecks to employees, we want to maintain a very efficient, hard-working staff to be as thin as we can, right? And we want to keep our costs down so that we can keep more of our own money. We have an incentive to do that as business owners. These government entities don't. They will simply just blow with the wind. Hey, looks like we're not getting this stuff done on time or like we want. Let's just go to the legislature and ask for more money and ask for more employees. And when you do that for 50, 60, 70 years, you start to get completely out of control, which is where it's at. And so it's just about having an incentive. We got to incentivize these employees. That's another big part of the problem. These folks have no reason to go work that extra 5 hours a week. Why? Why would you stay a minute longer than 40 if you don't have an incentive? You don't get a bonus to do it. You don't even get a, hey, thanks, or any kind of recognition. And so a lot of our implementation was through incentivizing good workers, hardworking workers, talented workers. And by the time you start doing that with enough of your work staff, you don't need so many more employees. As a matter of fact, you can cut and then still have your top performers performing at a rate that's more efficient and even better, a better product.
So we're not just talking about policy changes and tax rate changes. We're actually talking about culture changes throughout the Missouri government. And that's a big lift. Can it be done?
Oh yeah, it can be done and it will be done, but it's not going to happen overnight. And that's where I'm hopeful the voters can see we cannot get it done overnight. This has happened over decades of malfeasance and incompetence, and so it's going to take time. But we're on our way, and the governor's doing an outstanding job. He's really pushing his directors to start getting serious, have a plan, especially if we have a bad budget year. We see that coming. Have a plan. What would it look like if you had to cut 5% of your budget? What would it be? Tell me what that plan looks like and why. And so we're starting to prepare in ways that no matter what, hopefully we don't have to cut our budgets. Hopefully we choose to cut our budgets. And so you can see that sentiment. It's coming, all hands on deck. This governor is doing an outstanding job. He's got great relationships. He's got a great reputation, and he is pressing on his team and his cabinet to help get this income tax cut done.
All right, State Senator David Gregory. Hey, appreciate the update, David. Be safe when you head into the Capitol, either probably today or tomorrow. You guys going to be in today?
We are off tomorrow. That's good. We will be in tomorrow, and we will stay safe. Thank you so much for having me.
You got it. We'll talk to you again soon.
See ya.
All right. Don't forget, we have got a really cool event coming up with our friends at the Freedom 13. They've got a gala that is coming up. I'm grabbing the details on it right now because this is something that you can register for right now. And you can go to NewsTalkSTL.com to get more information. The Freedom 13, as you know, they salute our troops. It's called the Salute Our Troops Gala Night. It's going to happen Friday, February 27th at the Foundry Art Center in St. Charles. Freedom 13 was created to not just remember and honor Jared Schmitz and his 12 fellow American heroes, but also every American hero that makes the ultimate sacrifice. And their mission is simple: help our veterans, police officers, and their families. So go to NewsTalkSTL.com for all the details of the Salute Our Troops Gala Night and to purchase your tickets.
Get up, can't you hear the alarm? Get up, this is your cousin car. Get up.
Remember those magical moments in Mom's kitchen? The heavenly aroma of fresh baked cookies? At Trolley Stop Bakery in Chesterfield's Forum Shopping Center, our co-op of talented bakers has been perfecting that homemade magic for 4 decades. From the gooeyest cookies in town to custom pies, cobblers, and cakes, everything's made from scratch, just like Mom and Grandma's recipes. Need that perfect corporate gift? We ship our famous cookies nationwide. The Trolley Stop Bakery, 67 Forum Shopping Center, or TrolleyStopBakery.com. Because some traditions are too sweet not to share.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Speaking to David Stokes, Director of Municipal Policy at the Show Me Institute, tell Chris and I about Waymo, these robo-taxis.
That is pretty obvious that these cars are much safer than human-driven cars. And much like I like horses, I like humans.
Dave, my God, man, they're killing cats.
I'm not an expert, but I do believe in the history of America that probably some human driving a car has also run over a cat.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps, weekdays at 4 on News Talk STL.
Kathy Connor from Connor Roofing is here. Kathy, how you doing?
Good. Hi, Vic.
You know, when you need a roof, I don't want to call a stranger. I want to call you.
Yeah, thanks. At Connor Roofing, we're more than just a roofing company.
How long you been doing it?
Since 1993.
And year after year, storm after storm, you guys are always there.
Because this is our home, too, Vic. Our kids go to school with your kids. We cheer for the same teams. Go Blues!
So support your neighbors. Call Connor Roofing at 314-375-7475 or CONNER roofing.com.
Thanks, Vic.
This app is absolutely fantastic.
Yes, I listen on my phone.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
It is awesome.
Download the all-new News Talk STL app and listen anytime, anywhere.
Hey folks, Jamie Allman here, waiting for you for the 3 Martini Lunch, the Common Sense Radio, the Allman Report on News Talk STL. Now back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
All right, no more snowfall. That's the good news.
Oh, thank goodness.
They're going to have time to get the rest of the roads cleared out. I wouldn't be surprised if most of the main and the secondary roads are cleared off by the end of today, even though we got a crap ton of snow. But weather is still really, really, really dangerous out there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Also, outrage over another shooting involving federal law enforcement. And the outrage is basically, if you're in one tribe, your outrage is directed at the other.
And I see misinformation coming from both sides, and it makes it much more hard or much more difficult to actually have a actual conversation when nobody wants to be factually correct.
And the agitators in this case include the elected officials. I'll have an example for you here in just a second. And the man accused of killing a Herman police officer, here's his verdict. It is a 20 right now. Let's go ahead and do one more news dump.
The Morning News Dump.
Are you joking? Is this a joke?
Listen, folks, the Morning News Dump.
All right, we're going to start in Minnesota, where another fatal shooting has happened involving federal law enforcement. 37-year-old Alex Preddy was killed by Border Patrol agents during a conflict on Saturday. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz decides to make this, of course, about Donald Trump.
We believe in law and order in this state. We believe in peace. And we believe that Donald Trump needs to pull these 3,000 untrained agents out of Minnesota before they kill another person. And we're up here telling another story of a Minnesotan just trying to live their life without the interference.
I mean, I don't know if this is somebody who looks in the mirror and hears this and actually believes the words that come out of his mouth, or if he's just that gross of a human being.
Yeah. I mean, there's really no two ways around it. You have a governor as well as the Mayor Fry, who are both using rhetoric that are inciting or at the very least permissive towards the behaviors that people are engaging in that are getting them into dangerous situations.
I would say that he and Keith Ellison and Jacob Fry, I think they are inciting at this point. I mean, they really are. They're stopping short of saying the words, go get them, but they've done everything they can to gin up and encourage the confrontations.
And especially with the fact that they are actively encouraging local law enforcement not to be there to at least do some peacekeeping. You can only wonder why you would encourage people to go against people that they view as these horrible, bad, evil federal agents.
Yeah, now I have not made up my mind on the shooting of Alex Preddy. He made a series of really stupid, malicious decisions. I don't know if this is what they're going to call a clean shoot or a good shoot, or whether or not somebody messed up on law enforcement. We need to get the facts on that. But think about Tim Walz's mindset. He activates the Minnesota National Guard, and one of the first, if not the first order, is to take donuts and coffee to anti-federal law enforcement protesters. I'm not making that up. And then they videotaped it and bragged about it with Minnesota National Guard taking donuts and coffee to anti-ICE and anti-DHS protesters.
It's just ridiculous. And I'm not even a big pro-federal government guy.
Right,
I go to just casually on my own time. I'll go to protest if I'm in the area just to observe and see what's going on. But at the same time, the way that this is being done, they're acting like these are people that are 10, 20 feet away minding their own business, and then ICE starts whooping butt, and that's not the case.
No, that's not the case at all. And Kristi Noem, Secretary of Homeland Security, was discussing the shooting yesterday.
An individual approached U.S. Border Patrol officers with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun. The officers attempted to disarm this individual, but the armed suspect reacted violently. Fearing for his life and for the lives of his fellow officers around him, an agent fired defensive shots.
Okay, so I want to hear the rest of the facts before I come to my personal conclusion, because there are a lot of things missing from that timeline that the Secretary just said.
So I don't want to accuse us of being lying by omission.
Right.
But she is correct in a very technical, reductionist way, but from the video evidence available, he was holstered. He had he had his permits. He had all the paperwork. He was within Minnesota state laws, the legal elements of being able to carry a gun in public. And there were a few steps that were missing between the shooting and that she seemed to.
Well,
not
he was
included.
Disarmed before the shooting happened.
Yes, and there's a video going around where people are accusing the guy that you can be seen with the firearm walking away of being Preddy, and that is not him. That's the agent that disarmed him. Preddy was actually still underneath the dog pile when that happened.
Yeah. So that doesn't mean that the officers were necessarily wrong, but I think it's too early to say that they were right. And I think we need the facts because truth matters in this case. Maybe I'm going to come to that conclusion. I don't know. Alex Preddy put himself in that situation through his own stupidity because he decided to interfere with federal law enforcement. But as far as the shooting itself, I think that we all need to step back and say, let's find out what really happened.
Yeah, this is not a zero sum. Everything that ICE is doing is good or bad. And same with the protesters. But this case is, right now, it's too early to tell exactly if it was justified or not.
Right. I question this one. I mean, the Renee Good shooting was pretty straightforward. She was about to run over the law enforcement officer. He was within his rights and his.
She hit him with the vehicle.
She hit him with the vehicle. This one here, I've got questions about. But when I come to a conclusion, I'll let you know. Okay, over the weekend, the man accused of killing one Herman police officer and wounding another in 2023 was convicted. That first-degree murder verdict was handed down in Franklin County Court on Saturday. Kenneth Lee Simpson shot both Sergeant Mason Griffith and Officer Adam Solentrup at a convenience store. Griffith was killed, and Solentrup needed extensive rehab before returning home. The sentencing phase of the proceedings will begin this week. Prosecutors are seeking the death penalty in this case.
Good.
That was just such a shocking story because those things just don't happen in Herman. And anybody who's been down to the winery and been down to Herman, you know exactly which convenience store this is. We've all stopped there. We've all been there. If you've gone to visit Herman, you've stopped at that convenience store, and that's where it happened. And then there was a standoff for several hours, and they finally arrested him. Just a horrific situation. Okay, thousands of flights have been canceled amid a historic winter storm in the U.S. Secretary Sean Duffy, Secretary of Transportation, saying be a little patient because it may take more than a day or so for the airlines to get caught up after all of those canceled flights.
You just got to fill in the aircraft that we have. And so you'll see fuller flights as we look out to the next week.
And that was from Fox News' The Big Weekend show. So today going to be kind of crazy. They're hoping that by Wednesday, obviously I hope so because I'm flying out on Wednesday, that they're going to get things straightened up. But, it wasn't just that it was cold. That canceled a lot of plans and a lot of flights and other travel things.
Yeah, between the government shutdown and now the freezing weather, it seems to be a really bad time to be a flyer
Yeah.
in the past few months.
Yeah. All right, the snowfall totals around the area were generally between about 10 and 12 inches over the weekend, pretty much exactly what the forecaster said was going to happen.
Because I believe it was supposed to be 8 to 13. So, I mean, it's
right in that range.
In that sweet spot.
Yep. So now the concern is the Arctic cold. The actual low temperature today is going to be around -5. Our friends at KMOV Weather say that the wind chills could drop that to -15 to -25. Many roads are still snow covered. My guess is that most of those are going to be cleared off by the end of the day. The main thoroughfares, they should be in pretty good shape. But the residential areas, it could be today or even tomorrow. But the main and secondary roads, you should be okay for today. But it is dangerously cold out there. If you don't have to be outside, don't go because you'll feel it within minutes.
Oh, I can speak firsthand at exactly that, yes.
Yes. Okay, does the Republican Party need another convention heading into the midterms? Usually you don't see that in the midterms. But there is a call for that. President Trump is wanting the Republicans to have a big convention as we head into that. Joe Gruters from the Republican National Committee was asked about that.
We at least created the framework where we created a infrastructure where we could have a midterm convention. We need to do things a little bit differently if we're going to defy history.
And that was, of course, from Fox News as well. I don't know why you would need a big convention if it's going to be a rally the electoral troops sort of thing. I guess I get that, but I think you'd be more effective just having rallies around the country. But I don't know that you need another big convention for that. But that's what they're thinking about doing.
Yeah, I think right now that the attitudes that the right in general are expressing would make more sense to actually explain how you're going to follow through on the campaign promises we voted for you for.
Right. Yep, exactly. All right, a couple things sports-wise. Blues are off today. They're going to be back at home Tuesday. Stars are going to be in town for that one. And listen, they don't get a lot of attention, but the St. Louis Ambush had a busy weekend. We're talking indoor soccer here. Those games are fun to watch. And they broadcast both of the games on YouTube Live. Pretty much all their games are broadcast on YouTube. They split a home-and-home series with the Milwaukee Wave. Saturday, the Ambush got the 5-3 win at the Family Arena. On Sunday, the Wave won in overtime. So the Ambush had they had the game in hand. They were up by 2 goals in the fourth period, and then they ended up tying it up, going to overtime, and the Wave won it in like 37 seconds into overtime. They got a goal really fast. Final there was 7-6 in Milwaukee. The Ambush will be back at home hosting Tacoma on February 7th.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
We Democrats know so much, that is true. And we have to kind of tell everybody how smart we are.
On Newstalk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Layer up, my friends. It is brutally cold out there this morning. An extreme cold warning in effect until noon. After starting the day with wind chills between 15 and 25 degrees below zero. My forecast high today is only 15. Top wind chills around 3 this afternoon, and that's with the sunshine. Not as cold tonight. Still frigid, though. Down to 10 for the low early Tuesday morning. Mostly sunny and warmer tomorrow afternoon, but minimal melting with a high at 29. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
Fox News Commentary with Tommy Lahren next.
New Year's resolutions sound great on January 1st, but January 10th, not so much. This year, there's one resolution worth keeping, getting your finances in order. For many people, that starts with balance, not just growth, but protection too. And that's where Noble Gold Investments comes in. For over a decade, they've made it easy for investors to add gold and silver to their portfolios and reduce market risk. Visit NobleGoldInvestments.com, NobleGoldInvestments.com. Past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals involves risk. Consult with your tax or financial professional before making investment decisions.
Here's Tommy Lahren.
For 4 years, the Democrats let everything into this country. There was no vetting. It was a free-for-all. But now Republicans want to play their game and just deport the very select few with a cherry on top. Pretty please? I don't think so. Their immigration policy was not best of the best. It was all of the above. It was haul in all the warm bodies and make it damn near impossible to get them out. And you know what? It worked. It worked until President Trump strolled back into that White House a year ago and said no more. And some of you are willing to renege on that contract as 77 million Americans? For what? To appease a violent mob? You know, I gotta hand it to the left, because at least they have a strategy they stick to. Every time they lose an election, they spend every waking moment of every day of those 4 years going out of their way to make life miserable for the rest of us.
For more commentary like this, go to foxnewspodcast.com.
The Herzog Tomorrow Foundation provides private school tuition scholarships through Missouri's new Most Scholars program to cover the cost of accessible, high-quality schooling.
Hi, this is Myella Esser with the Herzog Tomorrow Foundation. Our private school tuition scholarships wouldn't be possible without the support of generous Missouri taxpayers. If you're a Missouri taxpayer interested in redirecting your tax dollars and sending them to Missouri students in need of a better education, please contact me at herzogmostscholars.org.
Better education for students creates a better tomorrow for all. Learn how you can help provide a better education for Missouri students at herzogmostscholars.org. That's herzogmostscholars.org. Also, sign up for The Lion, an initiative of the Herzog Foundation that carries articles covering a wide range of issues facing American families and culture. herzogfoundation.com. That's herzogfoundation.com.
Hey, Jamie Allman here. When your car needs attention, trust who I trust. Benchmark Complete Auto in Valley Park. 25 years as a family-owned and operated company, Benchmark is your Napa Auto Care Center for nearly every maintenance and repair, using the latest technology and top-quality parts. Need help with the bill? Well, ask about Napa's Easy Pay financing. Mention Jamie Allman and NewsTalkSTL and get 10% off. BenchmarkAutoRepair.com, BenchmarkAutoRepair.com.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Download the all-new NewsTalk STL app.
Love the all-new NewsTalk STL app.
On my way to work in the morning.
Usually I'm in the car.
I listen on the app in my car every morning going to work.
Download the NewsTalk STL app and listen anytime, anywhere.
I'm Congressman Bob Onder, and you're listening to Mike Ferguson in the Morning on NewsTalk STL.
Okay, that mob invasion of the Minnesota church, that was just over a week ago, right? That was even worse than we thought.
Really?
The actions of the media likes to call them protesters, but their actions were even worse than we thought. When you look at the complaint that was filed, and Tyler O'Neill over at the Daily Signal did a really nice job covering this. He just pulled up the complaint because that's public information, and he looked at it, and the Justice Department is saying it wasn't just about going into the sanctuary and screaming and not leaving when they were told to leave and threatening people. But in addition to all of that, which you know we've had arrests already in that case. Now, of course, the judge has already ordered the release of at least 2 of them, but they're still going to stand trial.
Last I saw, all 3 had been released as of Friday.
Yep, I knew about the 2. Okay, so it's estimated that there were between 30 and 40 of these, I guess, protesters who invaded this sanctuary here in St. Paul. Okay, so here's the other thing, though. When you look at, and Tyler's been on the show a number of times. If you find him on X or on Twitter, you look at some of the other things that they did. One, you know, there's video, their own video of them basically blocking, you know, the aisle down the front and not permitting the people there to have their worship service. So that's one thing. But here's some other things. There's also an accusation now that they physically blocked a stairwell when parents were rushing to try to get their kids. And according to Tyler, agitators blocked stairs. I'm just reading from his social media. Agitators blocked stairs, so, quoting, parents were unable to get to their children at Sunday school. One told a kid, quoting, "You know your parents are Nazis. They're going to burn in hell." Wow. And then he links the 7-page complaint on there. And I'm trying to put myself in that situation, and especially when my kids were little. If they were still so little, they were in children's church or they were in Sunday school, and some mob comes and they're blocking and like, nope, we're not letting you get to your kids. I'm getting to my kids.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I try to be real measured because I understand that I'm on the air and there's a responsibility. I'm throwing hands and somebody's getting hurt. Maybe it's me, maybe it's you, but you are not going to stop me from getting to my kids. And so if none of the parents resorted to violence, I'm going to question those parents as well, because if they're blocking the stairwell, you're not allowed to go get your kids while this chaos and this mayhem is happening. They absolutely not only had a right, but I would argue as a parent, a duty to break somebody's nose. And if they were standing at the top of the stairs, blocking you from going downstairs, I don't know if it was that or if it was blocking somebody from going upstairs. I have no idea. But I don't care if you're standing at the top. That's just easier for me to send you to the bottom. And and you know what? And I'll take the heat if some left-wing, prosecutor wants to do it. But at that point, how could you not assume that your kids were not in danger from these lunatics who raided this church? And, there'll be a lot of people who say, look at the restraint and the love of the people in the church. That's fine. That's great. You prayed for them. But if they're in between you and your kids, and these are obviously out of control, fringe lunatics, I would argue you've got a duty to do whatever force is needed to get to your kids to make sure that they're safe.
I know people that are my age that have kids, and sometimes the parents make bad decisions,
sure,
and whatever the case may be, but the kids themselves are usually pretty decent kids. I cannot imagine anybody, if you want to yell at the parent, if you want to get in their face, even if it's stupid, what
Sure.
you're doing, do it to the parents. But once you start going
Right.
after kids, you are going to be seeing stars. And I think we've forgotten there's a difference between being peaceful and being harmless.
Right. And this case here, we didn't even know about that until this complaint. So imagine that the media didn't run with us. The media that was trying to frame this as generously as possible for the extreme left. Don Lemon didn't report on this. Imagine that. He was doing the journalism.
Wow.
Or so that he argues. But I'm trying to put myself in this situation here. And part of what they were doing, and they admitted this, and they, when Don Lemon was recording his video and doing his live stream before they went in, they flat out said, we're going to catch him off guard. They don't see this coming. We're disrupting. So there is a shock and awe sort of approach that you stun people and they don't know what to do for a couple of minutes. And then by the time they figure out this is really bad, they're surrounded and they've basically lost in that case. But I'm telling you, especially when my kids were little. I mean, Sunday school, you're talking, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, something like that, or children's church, at least in the churches that I grew up in. You are not. End of story. You are not stopping me from getting there. And I will use force and I will hurt you if you're trying to do that. And the fact that nobody resulted to force and just let them block their children, I'm disappointed in those churchgoers. Now, if it's yes, I'm going to use stereotypes, so get mad at me for being misogynistic or whatever you want to call it right now. But if it's the mom who goes in and there's a bunch of these protesters, especially guys, she doesn't have a chance to get through. Dads, where were you?
Yes.
Men, deacons, elders, whatever you have there, where were you? And there should have been some force applied to fight back, at least on that. The sanctuary, you want to say, you let the law sort it out. Okay, I'm willing to buy that. But in this case, if what's in that complaint is true, and that's what the witnesses are stating, If that's true, then I would say the parents didn't measure up to the moment by not using physical force against these people.
It should be without saying that nobody should be going to a church or a public gathering or a group or anything like that with the expectation of going and having to fight people and engage in that behavior. But you do have an obligation, if you are put in that situation, to let it be known that you guys are not going to be tolerating this, because, again, if you have no ability to deter and or respond when it's appropriate with force against people that are there to intimidate and harass you and all of that, you are harmless to the situation, and what you're doing is encouraging more people that would engage in that behavior to do it to other people. And you need to set that example. It's not going to be tolerated.
It's not even just about the messaging. Everything you said right there is correct. It goes beyond that. How do you not say, my children are in immediate danger? Look at these crazy people. Because at that moment, they're yelling and screaming, and they weren't punching or turning over chairs or anything like that, but that's an immediate threat. And to say you can't go to your kids, you don't know who's in there with them, that is an immediate threat, and that should have been met with force. It should have been. And you know what? If they got their biggest dudes in there to block it, maybe you're going to lose the fight, but you should have tried.
Now, from a more, I guess, rational sense of logistically and optics-wise, would that have gone in their favor? Because remember, so Daniel Penny, there was a violent, mentally ill guy who was harassing people on a train who unfortunately got into a situation where Daniel Penny tried to restrain him.
Right.
And he did the right thing in that situation and that train, and yet the media tried to twist it and put him on full blast for the entire nation. Now imagine, because a lot of the protesters were black and some of the people at the church were white, so if it was a white guy and all you would say is, wow, they use force against these peaceful black protesters, I guarantee you it's going to say, look at how racist and evil they are. So what is that? Just something we have to learn to accept?
I don't care. I mean, to quote Keith Ellison, that's just something you're going to have to learn to live with. You know what? And that's if like in the Daniel Penny situation, he went and tried to save other people from the dangerous madman. In this case, you're talking about my kids, or for those who like have grandkids, because you can be in your 50s and have grandkids. I mean, you can still be a threat and have grandkids, but parents, 20s, 30s, 40s, and if your kids are threatened or they are in potential danger, I couldn't care less what the media is going to say about me. I don't care what in that moment, you have to do the right thing and get to your kids to make sure they are safe. And it doesn't look like there was any physical confrontations on that. So if what's alleged in that complaint is true, everybody, when this happens at your church, you need to be ready to respond accordingly. And sometimes that means punching somebody right in the nose in good Christian love.
Now, this is a two-part thing, so bear with me here. But so Scooter says, the protesters that came into the church were not violent and they assaulted no one. The move in a church, the church is a public area. This is encouraging violence, Mr.
BS.
Ferguson. I
am encouraging violence against that mob. Yes, 100%. Clip it right there and use it that way. They did not. This is not saying that they're open to the public on private property. They were ordered to leave. They didn't do it. At the very least, that made them trespassing. And by the letter of the FACE Act, they violated federal law by violating the other's rights. So that's just crap, Scooter. I'm glad you engage everybody in the debates and everything, but you're just out to lunch on that one. And yes, I am encouraging violence on anybody who threatens children or threatens other in that church. I am encouraging violence on them if they are threatening children.
Absolutely. And by threatening...
Could I be any more clear? Does anybody have any questions what I think about that?
You mean sometimes only it's okay to use potential? No, and I agree. And threatening does not have to mean a verbal threat. It could be intimidation. It can be anything that is done specifically to make somebody feel unsafe.
I appreciate the debate. Don't get me wrong. And that's my position on this. Now, saying they did the right thing by not throwing punches in the sanctuary, sure, I'm fine with that. You should let the police figure it out. They were ordered to say, well, this church is open to the public, the protesters get to do whatever they want. That's just factually wrong, and it's morally wrong, and it's ethically wrong. And at that point, these weren't protesters. They were using intimidation. They were using the threat of violence, the physical threat of violence. So I hope they're prosecuted, and every single one of them does jail time.
Absolutely. There's a lot of foolishness going around in the country. And, sometimes I sit there and I reflect on it, and I have to admit, I did something very foolish the other day. I was sitting in the freezing cold in my vehicle, because I wanted to listen to some of what was going on over the weekend on our amazing station. And as I'm sitting there waiting for my car to thaw, I'm freezing. I realize I have the free News Talk STL app downloaded on my phone already. I could be in the comfort of my own home right now, listening to the conversations that I want to hear. So
waiting for your car to thaw? You mean waiting for you to thaw?
Well, yeah, it was thawing while I was thawing. But so point being is that don't be a fool like me. Download the free News Talk STL app. Stay inside during this cold front as much as you can, but still listen to your favorite News Talk programming.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
You are a bully?
On News Talk STL.
Hey, it's Susie Moore. If new flooring makes you think hassle, think again, because Michael's Flooring is changing the game. For over 30 years, Michael's has been locally owned and trusted for quality, variety, and amazing service. Whether it's carpet, hardwood, laminate, luxury vinyl, or ceramic tile, their expert team makes installing new floors exciting, not stressful. That's why customers keep coming back. Visit Michael's Flooring at St. Peter's, Starting Prairie, Creve Coeur, or online at igotfloored.com. That's igotfloored.com.
It's more than a rebellion. When your teen is slipping into drugs or alcohol, when social media and pornography consume their time and their mind, when depression and even suicidal thoughts cast a shadow over your home, as a parent, you feel powerless. There is hope. At Turnabout Ranch, troubled teens step away from the chaos and into a clarity of nature on a working cattle ranch. Care for horses, learn responsibility, build trust, and rediscover purpose. It isn't theory, it's real work, real therapy, real healing. Families from across the country have found transformation right here, just when they thought hope was gone. If your teen is struggling with addiction, harmful online behaviors, even weight management, call right now and get the help you all need.
800-219-2494. 800-219-2494. 800-219-2494. That's 800-219-2494.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Did Donald Trump and Republicans make everything great again over the weekend? We'll discuss with Senator Jim Talent at 425. At 525, Red State Headlines with Susie Moore.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps. Weekdays at 4 on News Talk STL.
Hi, it's Vic Porcelli.
And Ken.
Hi, Ken.
Hey, Vic.
Ken and I are on every Monday through Friday here on News Talk STL. Right now, you're listening to Mike Ferguson in the morning on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Whoosh, my morning people.
Okay, I got to take just a breath here to decompress. That, I mean, when I saw that pissed me off so bad. Now, my kids are both adults now, so, they can, fend for myself, although my daughter's a very small person, but I remember when they were little, if somebody threatened them or put them in a situation that was threatening, what comes out of real parents, what comes out of a real man, out of a real woman, is that instinct to protect your kids. You don't go, well, there's the mean person who's yelling at me. They're not letting me get to my kid. I can't believe they're not. No. You step it up and you take control of the situation. You don't allow somebody else to make you so impotent that you can't protect your children.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I mean, I know people personally where it's the mom or the dad gets a little heated because, waiter or somebody messed up their food and now they, whatever. If you want to go tit for tat in some regard, fine. But the moment you start targeting children, the moment you start yelling at them, the moment that you start saying things like your parents are going to go to hell, the moment that you do anything to intimidate a child, you are there's no world in which you are in the correct.
Yeah, see, when I read that complaint, I'm putting myself in that situation. I'm putting myself in the parent situation. Like, there's a mob of crazy people who won't leave. These people are out of their mind. They're screaming. They're going crazy. Oh, my gosh, my kid. And then I go up and somebody goes, nope, you can't go in here. Oh, yeah, I will. Now, maybe I'll lose the fight, but yeah, I'm trying. And you're going to get hit with something.
Because the lesson that would be learned as somebody that's been in situations that I was out of control of as a kid that were not good situations, the lesson that is being taught right now is that people in my community that are bigger than me are scary and potentially violent. I don't know what's going on, but they hate me. And the people that are supposed to be protecting me are unable to protect me. And how do you think a child's going to be able to grow up and feel and secure and develop appropriately if that's the lesson that they're learning in a church of all places?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and those on the left who are somehow trying to justify this as though it's the same thing as standing on a corner with signs. Come on, guys. You're not being intellectually honest. And deep down, I think you know that these are not the same things. And if that's the case, well, you know what? It's open to the public. Well, it means any business would be then, so I can just walk in and start screaming on private property and disrupt what they're doing and not allow them to do. But no, you can't do that. It's private property matters as well. And the fact of the matter is that the federal law was written, one, it was written to protect abortion clinics, but the addition to that specifically addresses this circumstance. But all of that aside, I still can't find a single report that says that any dad or uncle or brother or anything didn't try to force their way through there, that they basically kind of sat back and went, oh, well, nothing I can do. No, you don't know who's in there with your kid or that you know what, if you say, well, it's unchristian to punch him in the nose, so what? Well, I don't think it is, but if that's what's unchristian, then be unchristian.
I would actually argue that it was not unchristian.
I don't think it is. Yeah.
In the gospel, when Jesus said, if somebody strikes you on one cheek, turn the other cheek and let him strike you again, it was metaphorical in the sense of being insulted or being something. Right. It did not mean literally let somebody punch you twice in the face. Further in the Bible, Jesus basically says, if you do not have a sword, sell your cloak and buy a sword because things are going to get turbulent. So,
but yeah, in this case, any reasonable person would say my kid's in danger. These people are lunatics. You know, this wasn't the march across Selma. This was a non-peaceful invasion of private property and then a refusal to leave when instructed by the proprietors, if you will. So, you know, my guess is that the left-wing judges may let him off the hook on this. There should be jail time for this. You want to talk about sending a message? That's what should be done here.
Well, the three main agitators, including the guy, I can't remember his name, but the guy that said, hey, Pam Bondi, come get me.
Right.
The federal judge that ordered their release said that actually their civil rights were violated by being arrested for what happened.
How stupid.
That is the level of hypocrisy and double standard nonsense that is, and it encourages more people to do this. So again, there's a difference between being peaceful and harmless. If you are peaceful, you have to have the ability, the capability, and the knowledge and wisdom to be able to use force when necessary to protect yourself and others in your immediate vicinity. And if you can't do that, you're harmless. And once somebody realizes, especially people like this, realize that you're harmless, why would they not keep bullying and intimidating you? Because that is what in their mind makes sense to get their way.
Yep, precisely. All right. Okay, that's all I've got to say about that. I know there was some arguments. State Rep Michael Burton taking exception to what I was saying, and obviously Scooter. And listen, I'm actually glad that people from both sides are discussing and in the comments, and you know what, getting called out and debating and arguing. So I don't shy away from that at all here. I think that just makes for the discussions we should be having.
I agree entirely. And I would like to also put on record, though, as well, is that does not also mean that every use of violence is always acceptable, and that the people should not be gung-ho with immediately resorting to violence.
Here's the thing, is that the fringe on both sides has become bloodthirsty.
Yes.
You know, and I mean, you say, well, the left, look at how they celebrated Charlie Kirk. It was gross and disgusting, but there are some on the fringe on the right who are also becoming bloodthirsty. Every one of these shootings and killings is a tragedy. And we've said that from the moment. Now, like, for instance, the one that just happened with Alex Preddy, I want to see the rest of the facts to see whether or not this was justified. I'm not convinced that it was, but that doesn't change the fact that it's a tragedy. So don't do stupid crap and put yourself in that situation. He committed crimes en route to being on the bottom of that scrum. Now, whether or not the officers acted appropriately when they fired, that remains to be seen, and maybe the evidence will show that they did. I just want to see it. I'm going to reserve judgment. I'm not so sure that this one was.
I've been keeping an eye on every single piece of video footage and every single report I can, and I don't think there should be any question that he inserted himself into a situation, and that the initial response to his presence being there that should not be questioned if it was legitimate or not. What is legitimate or not is the fact that it's undeniable that his firearm had been confiscated from him by one of the law enforcement, And after that is when the shots were fired. And the question should be, was it right for them, or were they within the scope of the law for them to have done that at that point? And that's the part where I'm struggling as well. As a 2A, I'm a gun owner. I follow the laws, but I can still carry. And I go to protest recreationally just to observe what's going on, ask some questions, find out what the real story is when I have time to do so. I wouldn't obviously be having it at holster because I don't want to imprint and intimidate anybody, but is there a scenario where I'm at there, they think I'm one of these protesters, I'm not there for that reason, and then next thing you know, I'm being shot because somebody says I've got a gun, and they think that that's responsible?
Yeah, the entire tragedy would have been avoided if Alex Peretti had stayed on the sidewalk and wanted to do his documentation or wanted to yell at him or wanted to protest him. Had he not tried to physically intervene, none of this would have happened. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that the police, that the federal law enforcement did everything they were supposed to do. If they went wrong on this, then yeah, they should be held accountable if they were wrong. Now, if it turns out that this was justified and that this was within the constraints, it's still a tragedy. But we need to not be so tribal that we just assume whatever our side does is justified, it's fine, it's good because it happened to them, because someday them is going to be us.
And on top of that, Chris Genome and Kash Patel factually wrong with their statements. It was
especially Kash Patel.
It's very. I can't imagine how much credibility that he's going to have left with the Second Amendment supporters after issuing such disgusting and reckless statements like that.
And Pam Bondi's got such a questionable record. Not even questionable. She's got a lousy record on the Second Amendment. The Trump administration's having a lot of issues with the Second Amendment supporters saying, we were among those getting out the vote for you. Where is our Second Amendment? And so he is responding on a few things here and there, but the Second Amendment organizations, they want to see more. And they want to see more quickly because the midterms are coming up, and some of them are threatening to sit this one out if they do not get promises delivered.